All right, everybody, here we go. Today is Friday, July 10th, 2026. My name is Rob Carter. Welcome to the future, number one radio/podcast in America. We're going to get the show started very quickly today. We have Colonel Robb Manus to talk about the Iran war. You know, I like to talk about the Iran war, Isaiah. U.S. Air Force Colonel Robb Manus has a new book out. This is the title of his new book, What You Can Do About Taking Real Action Against Corruption, Radicalism, and Moral Decay to Save America. What is the name of this book? What You Can Do About It. What You Can Do About It is the name of the book. We're going to bring in Air Force Colonel Robb Manus. Colonel, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good, Rob. How are you on this fine Friday?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. I'm looking forward to talking to you because we talk a lot about the Iran war, lots of different opinions, even within libertarian and conservative circles. My first question to you is, what is going on in Iran? I get so many different stories. I'm not sure that I get the real skinny from our news media anymore. What is the overall situation in Iran right now?
Well, the Iranian leadership that's headed up by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps always has been, no matter who the mullah and his council are, the IRGC have always been in control. That's the militant arm of the fanatical Muslims that are there. And what is happening today is what you're witnessing, what's called the mosaic defense concept, which is part of what you're witnessing. And that concept is where the high command sent out standing orders to all of their units, and whenever they're cut off communications wise, that they have targets that they're able to strike at will without getting permission and those kind of things. That's why you keep seeing these strikes occur seemingly disconnected from the national leadership and the national command and control. And the United States and our allies are now in a position where we have total control over the skies and most control over the Gulf and the Strait of Hormuz, but you still have these capabilities that are out there that have to be taken out systematically one by one. Unfortunately, the ceasefire, for what it's worth, gave them an opportunity to reconstitute some of the forces and capabilities that we had destroyed already, because we didn't take down the overland bridges, roads, railroads, or the northern Caspian Sea port. So they were getting resupplied and reconstituted through those areas. Yesterday, though, we bombed those and took down those bridges and removed that capability. So that will help to stop the Iranians from shooting at commercial shipping.
How do we negotiate? Because this is one of the questions that I've been asking since this conflict/war started. Is how do we know who we're negotiating with? Donald Trump said we killed 50 to 60 of their top leaders. How do you, as a functioning government, know who you're dealing with? How do you know that you're negotiating with people that have actual control over the entire country?
That's the challenge, is that he's not negotiating with people that have total control over the entire country. Just the explanation of the mosaic defense concept through the IRGC reveals that the political types have always just been a facade as far as how the country is governed and those kind of things. And that's who they're negotiating with, apparently. That makes it difficult because they're not always in contact with the IRGC leadership that's actually pulling the triggers and causing these attacks and those kinds of things. And that disconnect is what you're witnessing play out in real time. And I don't know if I would consider it a negotiation as much as hey, here's what you need to do. If you don't do it, we're going to continue to hold you accountable through force.
How does the United States win this war? Because I'm looking at both sides of the argument. So I'm watching what is coming out of Iranian news, international news, and U.S. news. And it seems to me that they don't really want an end to the war. Basically, what they're saying publicly, they're like, we're just going to come in and drain you. We're going to hurt the American economy as much as we can, and we're here for the long haul. How do you win a war when the other side doesn't seem to really care what you do to them? It just seems very odd. How does the end of the war come in that scenario?
Well, the war started in 1979, so they've never wanted an end to this war. I see all of the punditry and the talking heads out there going, well, this is Trump's war and all that. No, it's not. This This is the IRGC's war. They started it years ago. I was 17 when I put the America's uniform on the first time, and that was in 1978, 79. They've been trying to kill me and those like me ever since. So how do you win? That's the big question when you make the decision to go into war like that. You know, the reason why the generals and admirals focus so much on the military objectives is because they're achievable. The president approved those objectives. They were achievable. Unfortunately, though, we left some targets off the table intentionally to preserve infrastructure and those kind of things. I don't know if you remember that discussion with the president. Now we're back in because they have been intransigent on what they agreed to do on this MOU. We are continuing to take those targets out, and we're going to finish that job. And eventually, when the IRGC is completely cut off, they're no longer able to pay their troops, which they've been in that situation for a while now, but we let them get some more resources when we waived the oil tanker exporting sanctions for a few days over the last couple of weeks. They got some more resources, so they were able to pay their troops, feed their people, and those kind of things. But eventually, now that we're starting to cut off the overland routes of resupply and those kind of things, they will slowly wither and die on the vine. And what I hope happens is that the Iranian people become strong enough to overcome what's left of the IRGC and completely take them out of the picture and remove them from power. That's what I hope to see happen. But the United States doesn't control that, and we are not going to control that. It would be very unwise to try to invade the country. It would take 1 million ground troops. 1 million ground troops. You know, in Desert Storm, we had 500,000 American troops deployed there, and untold hundreds of thousands, almost 1 million troops just to do Kuwait. And Iran is a much larger country, much larger, complex set of systems that would have to be taken down and completely controlled on the ground in order to do that. It's just something that's it's doable, but not wise to do that. So we've got to continue our air operations and take their capabilities away from them systematically, and acknowledge that you can't negotiate with these people. They're fanatics. They believe that they should be causing the end of the world to come. That's what they actually believe, and they're just going to continue doing what they're doing until they're no longer able to do it.
What is your take? I was listening to Jesse Ventura the other day, and he got a little heated, and he said, you know, we always talk about Iran and the conflict with Iran starting in 1979, but he says it goes back to 1953 when United States interests, along with British interest, went in there for oil, and that is when the real problem began. What do you say to that? Because I'm curious about that myself. I always go, wait a minute, if we're interfering in their lands in 1953, then maybe the conversation shouldn't start in 1979. What do you say to that argument?
Well, that government is gone. That government has been gone, and the descendants of those governments have been gone and are exiled outside of the country. The Iranian diaspora for that government, and some of the revolutionaries that helped take down that government in 1979, the ones that weren't killed by the IRGC afterwards, that were actually allies of the IRGC during the revolution, they are exiled outside of the country too. And look, you know, American companies have been building oil capability and producing oil out of that part of the world for many, many decades. And yeah, there was U.S. government involvement going back probably even pre-1953, but there primarily was oil company involvement. I actually had an uncle that adopted an Iranian orphan boy that he found in the deserts because he was working on oil platforms in the southern desert of Iran back in those days. So that's a reality of what it is, but that has nothing to do with the current Iranian government that in 1979 decided that they were going to make the United States the great Satan and continue to attack us and kill our people at every turn for the sole reason of wanting to cause the end of the world. That's it. That has nothing to do with the Shah's government, the way the U.S. interacted with it, whether it be government or corporate.
I was looking at some of your notes that you sent me preparing for this, and it says the Iranian president recently asserted that $6 billion in frozen regime assets held in Qatar will be released under a memorandum of understanding signed by Tehran and the United States. And I guess the question is the U.S. making this money available now, and should it?
A, it shouldn't, and B, that's off the table. As a matter of fact, the sanctions that I mentioned earlier about the Iranians being able to export oil and get revenue were lifted temporarily under the MOU, as long as the Iranians were acting appropriately and doing what they said they would do under the MOU and beyond. Those kinds of things were going to continue to happen, but we've now closed that down and rolled that back. We're not going to release any assets to them unless they come back to the table and do what they signed up to do. And I don't see that happening.
Okay. How do you understand? Because we've had people on our show before who said that the Ayatollah had a fatwa against building nuclear weapons. Tulsi Gabbard said that, and the intelligence agencies, as I understand it, say that there was really no concerted effort to build nuclear weapons in Iran. Is that the driving force behind this war? Because that's the way it was sold originally, and then it seems like it's kind of shifted around. I heard Donald Trump saying the other day that there's nuclear dust, but it's so far under the ground that they couldn't get to it. Only the United States could get to it. How do you see the motivation for this war? Is this really to take out their nuclear weapons facility? Is this or capabilities, or is this to really just take out Iran and take away their aggressive capabilities in totality for the greater good of the Middle East?
Well, you're talking about different interests by different entities. The United States' vital national interest at the stake here is no longer oil. We don't need the oil from the Persian Gulf. We don't need very many products from there at all that are from a strategic perspective and a vital national interest perspective. So our vital interest is that they not be able to achieve nuclear weapons capability, because they already have missiles that can consistently reach into Central Europe. We know they're working on designs via ships to be able to fire missiles from ships into the United States from out in the Atlantic, and those types of capabilities. I have to ask you this. I've been doing nuclear weapons since I was 17 years old. And I have to ask you this now. If a country is going to all the effort to spend billions and billions of dollars to buy centrifuges and create a radioactive material manufacturing capability, and then enriching the uranium, in this case, up to the point where it's just a very, very few percentage points away from being weapons grade material, and it's not necessary. That level of enrichment is not necessary for nuclear power. Then what is its intent? There's a lot going on in the intelligence community. You mentioned Gabbard and her reporting and the fatwa and all that. There's a lot going on with that. But the Muslims in the fatwa issue, they have the taqiyya concept that says it's okay to lie as long as you're out to achieve the goals of whatever the Muslim goals are. That's number one. Number two, our intelligence community reporting has been absolutely decimated since the Obama years, and it's really not very reliable. But we know this through independent reporting. We know that they've enriched uranium beyond 60% in at least a quantity of about 1,000 kilograms, and that's enough to make 10 to 11 nuclear warheads.
So you believe they were intending to build and potentially use nuclear weapons? You believe that?
Absolutely. I've been watching it for a long time. I was in the government as we saw the North Koreans get the breakout on nuclear weapons, and the Iranians are following a similar process.
All right, I want to talk about your book. We talk about solutions on this show a lot. So we actually have somebody who's a contributor to the show that just wrote a book called Keeping the Republic. And you have a book out, say, what can you do? This is the title. What can you do about it? Taking real action against corruption, radicalism, and moral decay to save America. What would be your strategy to move America forward? And it does feel at times like society is just going off the rails. What is your solution?
Look, my book was written, and the title is "What You Can Do About It."
That's right.
It's a play on a question that I've gotten ever since I was in the military, whether I was a non-commissioned officer talking to my teammates, a commander talking to my troops, or in the public eye as a politician talking to town halls and citizens and those kind of things. And when we're talking about a specific issue, what's the question I get from Americans all the time? well, what can I do about it? And historically, Americans follow that model of being the individuals that identify problems and then take it upon themselves to start doing something about it as they organize and build. And what my book is about, yes, it uses historical events from my lifetime and other folks that I've worked with and known about through my lifetime to lay out a process of thinking about a problem. And the problem set starts with the question of what can I do about it? So identifying what you yourself are, what the problem is, and then set about the organizing, raising the resources to address it, and then acting to do that, and starting at the lowest level possible. Look, local action in this country has national impact every single time. I really take exception to people that say, oh, we're doomed. There's nothing that's going to happen because the federal government's got all this control, et cetera. That is not true. That's what this book is about, is it lays out what I've learned on how to do those things so that we can get to the point where we can take action and win consistently and recognize and teach our kids that this is a continuous, perpetual fight to keep our freedom. Ronald Reagan said it best. He said, American freedom is only ever one generation away from being lost if every generation doesn't pick up the standard and fight for it. This is Robb Maness's story and laying out exactly why we do that and a methodology of how to do that. Look, I've done it in my own life. I ran for U.S. Senate in 2013, in 2014, after talking to some veterans groups in Louisiana and everything. And we started with nothing. And we didn't keep Bill Cassidy from winning that year, but the team that I led still exists, and we helped stop him from being reelected this year. He just lost in his primary, in the first closed primary, which my team helped bring about, by the way, over in Louisiana. And that's why I wrote the book, because this is a perpetual fight. People need to be teaching their children that they need to stay in this fight. Here's a way to think about this thing by answering that question first for yourself. What's the issue? What can I do about it? And what do I need to do something about it? And then go do it.
Colonel Maness, what do you think about education? We talk about that on the show as well. I left school in 1988, left high school in 1988. I do not remember being taught how to be a decent citizen. I just don't remember any education about it, how the system actually worked from the local to the state to the federal level. I did not understand. I thought I understood politics. I watch the news and I pay attention to politics, probably more so from age 10 on than anybody that I've ever known in my life. I'm a junkie for it. But my education system did not teach me how to be a responsible citizen in our system. Do you think that that's something that is lacking? Just a general, generally, should we have more education for our kids about what it means to be a citizen, how to organize, how to make sure you protect freedom? Do you think that's something that should be taught in the schools better than it is now?
Oh, absolutely. I left high school in mid 1979, and we still had civics in ninth grade civics, but it basically talked about how the federal government works.
Right.
How legislation is made. You probably had the same thing, but we need to go deeper than that. And that's another reason why I wrote the book. I talk about my family's from West Tennessee. Both sides of my family are, and I talk about Congressman David Crockett. In that book, he was a congressman from that area twice. And yeah, it's the same Davy Crockett, King of the Wild Frontier, the Alamo, and all that stuff. But he's an example that I learned on growing up. That without a formal education, he was an American that saw problems and organized his friends to be able to address those problems. And he did that all the way into the Congress of the United States. And even when he was defeated twice by his own president, Andrew Jackson, because he disagreed with him on forcibly moving the Cherokee Indians out west along the Trail of Tears, he still said there are problems out here that need to be addressed, and he volunteered to take his men down to Texas and ended up in the Alamo. That story it seems like a simple story, and it's a history story, and it's been embellished and those kind of things. But the core of it is citizens at the local level understanding how things work. If when you graduate from high school, that you can have a huge impact. Matter of fact, the most impact you can have on your local community, if you live in a town, is to go to the city council meetings,
right,
and know when they are, know what they're talking about, get to know who the council people are, who the mayor is, and those kind of things, or the school board meetings. If you don't know that when you get out of high school, then we failed in our teaching. And you know what? I don't think you were taught that, and I certainly wasn't taught that. I mean, you kind of pick up on it, especially if you're like you. I'm like you. I was a political junkie since I was, 9 or 10 years old, and I have family members that are county commissioners, elected county highway department commissioner, and county government commissioners, and those kind of things. My aunt was even the president of the county commission for a few years. But the point is, I knew that, but most people don't know that. And you believe it or not, most people don't know that today. And that's another reason why I wrote this book, and why the book's titled, to answer that question, is to tell people what you can do about it. Because if you're not focusing at least initially at the local level, and learning how those pieces of government work, then you're never going to get to the point where you break out of that and have a national impact at the national level of government. And in the United States, our entire system is designed to empower the person at the lowest level possible. And if we don't exercise it, we lose it. It atrophies. And I think that's some of what's going on.
Yeah, we couldn't agree more. In fact, my producer's an alderman, and he's got video we're going to play a little bit later on the show. Went to a meeting last night. We have some amendments that the state of Missouri is trying to pass. So he went there last night. He's got some video. But I think when you get involved, and the people out in Washington, Missouri, where he was at last night, are very involved, and you're starting to see the tide starting to change. You see better questions of people running your government. You see better questions of the leadership, and because people are starting to understand how the system works, which I think is crucial. It just drives me crazy that we don't teach it in our schools any better. You would think the politicians would want an informed society, so they would put forth, methods to teach our children, but it doesn't seem to be happening quick enough for my liking. I want to hear about your show as well. So I was preparing for it last night. I was watching some of your conversations. I really enjoyed some of the conversations you were having on the Robb Maness Show on Worldview Tube Network. What do you try to get across with your show? Is there a certain, are you just trying to teach people that they can be effective in their government? Is it to bring people up to date on what's going on around the world? What is the premise of your show?
Well, we focus on everything from culture to national security. Pretty much what I've learned growing up in my lifetime. Because culturally, we have young men and women today, large portions of our population, that are buying into the lies of communism. And they've been indoctrinated in their public schools. We've allowed that to occur over a period of a couple of decades now, or some would even say more. So culturally, I try to have guests on to talk about those issues. And from a national security perspective, I dedicate Mondays to More War Monday, unfortunately. I hate war, but we need to talk about it. And people that are from the professional background that I am, and the guests that I bring in on those days, we come in and we talk about the real issue from the perspective of what is war, what's going on today. Usually there's an update on some conflict that's going on around the world, because I have sources that have actual live recorders in places like Ukraine, the Middle East, and those kind of things. So I do that, and then there's the politics of it. We do a lot of that. Just because of the nature of that, I stepped into the political arena in 2013 and had a lot of experience in that. And lately, I've been doing a lot of weaponization shows. I'm trying to get as many victims of government weaponization, especially the Department of Justice weaponization, on as I can, because it's still going, even though the Biden administration's gone. A lot of the cases they brought are still in progress, and the Trump administration's team has not gotten to them yet, so we're trying to highlight this.
It's funny, you had Michael Castellero on yesterday. I saw it, and I texted him. I know Michael, and I said, he's been on the show multiple times. I said, hey, I saw you on Robb Maness' show. He'll be on my show tomorrow. That's another, I mean, we won't get into it right now, but that's another situation where it appears to me that they're just going after this guy he thinks they're just stealing his money. But my audience knows who he is, but he thinks they're just stealing his money. Yeah. And I guess they're going to put this man in prison, barring some kind of intervention from the Trump administration. I just want to throw that out there because I saw he was on your show yesterday. First of all, do you agree with him? Have you looked at that case very closely to recognize what's going on with Mr. Castellero?
In the research that I did on the case, it's him and his two business partners, in this company called Straight Path that they organized under Trump policies from the first Trump administration. That it's policies designed to give access to regular Americans to pre-IPO investments. Usually, you got to be an accredited investor with millions and millions of dollars to get access to the shares pre-IPO for a lot of these things. And this company was designed under a Trump policy to be able to give that access to mom and pop, what he calls mom and pops. You know, people like me. You know, I'm not a wealthy guy, but I'd like to invest a little bit, and I would love to have an opportunity at pre-IPO investment if I had the money.
Amen.
You know, so the way I see it, the Biden administration, DOJ, was going after him. This was out of the SDNY, the Southern District of New York, which is a bad actor and has been a bad actor in our justice system for many, many decades. Even before Trump, they were pretty bad actors out of SDNY. But this is not the first company. That's what I was going to say. I think it's more because it's a Trump policy-based company, and that policy was coming up with something unique and unusual from a financial perspective. And I think the Biden DOJ saw opportunities there. And this is not the only company set of partners that I know about in the financial world out of SDNY where they've gone after all three partners in the company itself. And they are stealing this money.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
I mean, it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear. I don't know who this person is that's overseeing it, but because they're still not named, like you said. But when you're talking $31 million just to go to that person for fees and those kind of things, then something's going on there. So there's two things going on. They're stealing his money, and it's a holdover case from the Biden DOJ. And the SDNY is such bad actors that they're not going to let anything go unless they're forced to. Because they're chalking up wins. That's what the feds do. They get graded on whether they win or lose,
and they win most of the time because they can get you in a big. They can get you in trouble, and they can doctor that evidence however they like. Especially if you get into a friendly court for the government, it seems like you're in big trouble. Yeah. I got to ask you one question, and it might be just a little bit off the menu, Colonel Manus. But we just went to Washington, D.C., and we interviewed Thomas Massie along with the USS Liberty survivors. I apologize if this is off the menu just a little bit, but it's very important to me. I got to meet 15 guys who said that Israel attacked their ship, and they say intentionally to a man. We talked to them all. We were interviewing them. We got to hear the story. Does that concern you at all? Because as I understand it, just legally, we should not be doing business with the state of Israel if we know that they have nuclear weapons. That's illegal for the United States government to do that. And then I hear these stories from these guys who say that they were attacked intentionally by Israeli forces. And it makes me just get a little bit nervous when I'm talking about the Middle East, because my entire life I've been pro-Israel policy, sing it, talk to everybody about it. That's just where my head was at. And now that I'm in the radio business and podcasting business and I hear these stories, I'm starting to doubt whether what I think I know, I actually know. What is your take on the USS Liberty survivors? Have you looked at that case at all? Do you have any sense of it?
Yeah, I've looked at it. Look, there's two things that you just said. One is the facts. The USS Liberty was attacked by Israeli forces. That's a fact. The other is the intent, which has not been proven, in my opinion, that the Israeli armed forces intentionally attacked that ship because they knew it was American. The bad thing about war, and I consider Thomas Massie a friend of mine, the bad thing about warfare is that if you go into it making rash decisions and you don't have the right planning and the right capabilities and those kind of things, you can't deal with the unknowns that inevitably come up in warfare. Warfare is not only the worst thing human beings can do to each other, it's the most unpredictable thing that can happen in human activity. So you can't predict what's going to happen once war starts. And what we call a blue-on-blue engagement, which is essentially what this is, a friendly force attacking another friendly force that's not even engaged in the conflict but happens to be there. It is not too awful of an unusual occurrence, and it happens frequently. So the fact is, yes, they were attacked by Israeli forces. The unknown is, was it an intentional attack by the government of Israel on an American ship? That is very, very difficult to prove. I haven't seen any facts that support that concept. But it could be that the forces intentionally attacked the ship because they thought it was an enemy ship. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the intent piece there has several layers too, and it's a very complex situation. But the bottom line is, when you decide to go to war, just like the situation with the Iranians that we're talking about today, you know, I don't have the information the president was getting and everything, so I can't comment on the quality of the decision that he was able to make to go into that war. But I know this, that you better be making a very deliberate decision based on the best information available, and have the capability and a plan and a set of objectives that you can achieve, ready to go, and then set out to achieve those objectives so you can get the heck out of it when you're ready to, before you do that. Because warfare is so dangerous. That's why so many of us that have done it as professionals all our lives are totally opposed to it unless it's absolutely the last resort.
Do you would you support, because I think Massey is asking for an investigation on the USS Liberty. I've become friends with these guys. That's why I continue to ask these questions of everybody in the military. Would you support an investigation into the USS Liberty? Because if we were to find out that our closest ally in the Middle East actually did intentionally bomb them, because we talked to the people that had the flags up. I mean, we talked very convincing when you talk to these people in person. Would you support an investigation just to find out whether that was the case in 1967, or do you think that it's just past news and we should move on?
Well, you would have to be able to get into the communications inside the Israeli forces and the Israeli command system, the Israeli political system, and I highly doubt that you would be able to do that at this point. So much time has gone by, and records, but for whether it's from nefarious means or just over time, they tend to get lost. They get disconnected and fragmented and those kind of things, and you could end up with a conclusion that's absolutely off of the truth. You know, that so much things have gone by. So I don't think that it's worth the effort from the perspective of, are you really going to be able to answer the question? Because I don't think you can answer the question at this point.
Colonel Robb Maness, his book is called What You Can Do About It, Taking Real Action Against Corruption, Radicalism, and Moral Decay to Save America. Where can people find your book, Colonel?
Go to robbmaness.com, ROBMANESS.com/bonus chapter. There's a banner ad there you can click on and go buy the book at Kindle, paperback, or hardback at Amazon. And you can download the bonus chapter, just sign up with your email, and that's for free.
You got it. We got it on the screen right now. Colonel, I appreciate your service to this country. Appreciate you taking the time with us today. I wish you the very best. We'll talk again soon.
You bet, Rob. Thank you.
You got it. Have a great day. All right, everybody. Colonel Robb Maness. What do you think, Isaiah? You know, it's funny. It does seem like most military members do not have a.
That was the best response that I've heard, where he said he didn't know and he was honest about being, you know, even though I feel like he doesn't know as much as we know, so he can't potentially make the same assumptions that we can make, right? But
Jennifer, one of our listeners, said another. Yeah. I do have to admit, though, it does feel to me as though there is some kind of, you know, barrier to where if you contemplate the idea that Israel might not be our best friend in the entire world, you know, holding hands and skipping through the universe together. If you don't believe that, there's an uncomfortable. Could you feel just kind of uncomfortable? Oh, yeah. And I don't quite understand it. I don't understand why free thinkers can't go, you know what? If 15 80-year-old men look you in the eye and try to convince you that they recognized firsthand that Israel bombed their ship intentionally, why they would be considered not understanding of the situation, not wise enough to recognize what was going on, or that it was too long ago to do anything about it. I truly don't understand this point of view, but it seems almost universal when you start talking to military members about the USS Liberty. What's your take on that, Isaiah? What do you think is going on?
Yeah, I think something that he did do is that he left the door open that they could have intentionally attacked. And I appreciated that, because typically when we ask someone who is of the belief that it was not intentional, right?
Yep.
They don't even entertain that idea at all, right? Yeah. They think we're conspiracy theorists. They call us nut jobs, things like that. And so I appreciate, you know, you gotta point out the positive with the negative, I think, right?
Yeah.
And while he didn't, you know, we talked to them, like you said, they raised the flags up. You know,
the guy that raised the flag was sitting next to us, and I'm the one that raised the flag. It's not.
I mean, this must be the dumbest pilots in the world.
Exactly,
right?
Because you have English writing all over the ship, so you know it's not an Arab ship.
Yeah, these must be
they stole one of our ships or something.
Yeah, must be the dumbest pilots in the world. And I know from when I was going through, I never joined the military, but I went through deep processes to join the military, going through, the physical tests and all these things. And your vision has to be very good, and you got to be pretty smart to be a pilot. They don't just let anyone fly these planes. And
Yeah.
so I got a sneaking suspicion that they're not that stupid. You know what I mean?
Right. See, I just believe him. That's my problem is I don't want to.
Exactly.
It's what we talked about yesterday. I don't want to put motives. I don't want to apply motives to people that I don't understand where they're coming from.
What do
Right.
they have to benefit, Rob?
That's
What
what
I
I'm
want to
saying.
know.
I don't understand why 80-year-old men who say we don't want any compensation. We feel it is our duty at 80 years old before we leave this earth to remind the American people that we were bombed intentionally. We know this as for certain, or they would be driving into Washington, D.C. to have a press conference with Thomas Massey.
5-hour drive.
5-hour drive for 80-year-old men. And it was, they're walking around. I mean, you're talking about, we were exhausted. Remember, we were tired. Like, these guys are 80. They've been walking over the Capitol for, all day long. I just find it hard to believe that they're not telling the truth. And if they are telling the truth, what does that say about our relationship with Israel? What does it say about our intelligence agencies in Israel? We got Whitney Webb, if we can get a clip of her. If we don't get it today, we'll get it next week. And by the way, it looks like we'll be off on Monday. I have a court hearing in Missouri on Monday, so I think we're going to be off on Monday. So if we don't get to Whitney Webb today, we'll get to her next week. Don't be putting him up there. He's got the if you're watching the show, one of my buddies is making fun of me again, which I'm starting to enjoy. We got Act 4 Missouri coming up in just a bit. We'll have Michael Compton and Amy Castro. We're going to talk about Amendment 5. You've got some video from last night. You were out in Washington, Missouri. You had Bishop Davidson there, Scott Fawn there, Americans for Prosperity. Ben Brown was there. They believe in Amendment 5. And I think, I talked about it last night. You believe that they're honest brokers. They actually believe what they're selling.
And they really believe it. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, they believe it, according to what you learned last night. So we'll talk about Amendment 5 here in just a minute. It appears that the people at Act 4 Missouri think this could open the door to toll roads in Missouri, which I hate toll roads.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather pay extra money not to have toll roads. I lived in Chicago for a little bit. I despise toll roads. I never pay the tickets when I get them. We got here in Florida. If you go through the, I think it's called iPass or something like this, where you're driving around and all of a sudden you're at a toll road. And when you get lost, like the first couple of times I came down to Florida to see my wife, I was getting lost. And then you'd go off on an exit and you'd see a toll road. And you're like, I don't have any money. What am I going to do? They're going to send me a ticket for $20 because I didn't know that I was going to have to get off here and turn around. And all of a sudden I get a ticket in the mail for $25. I'm like, I'm not giving you $25 because I got lost and had to turn around in Florida. Stick it. And then
I got the toll roads in DC, right? We sat in traffic for how long? And these people were just flying by us, right? Because we didn't have the pass that we needed because we're not residents. We don't live there, so we didn't have this easy pass that everyone has. I mean, what, 30 miles, and it took us 3 hours to go 30 miles into DC, and yeah, it was crazy.
Chicago is absolutely unbearable. I lived in a town called Palatine. It was like Schaumburg area. People know the Chicago suburbs, and I would have to drive down to Oak. What was it? Oak Brook Mall.
Okay.
And that should be a piece of cake every day. Stoplight. No toll roads. And then I thought, I want to go downtown every now and again. And then the toll roads between like 2:30 and 8 o'clock at night, it would take you 2-3 hours to take a half an hour drive. I was unbearable. I'm like, I want to go downtown. I was a young kid. I want to be in downtown Chicago. I want to see Cubs games and that kind of thing. I just, I went down there maybe 10 times the entire time I lived in Chicago because I couldn't take the drive and I hated it. And everybody goes, you should take the L train. I don't even know how to get on and off the L train. So
I never had a car in Chicago. I always took the L. It was fantastic.
Always took the L. Maybe that was my problem is I didn't take the L, but man, what a nightmare those toll roads are. All right. Let's do some advertising. Then we'll bring in peopleslabimo.com. And by the way, just a little quick update. If you're interested in some personal stuff with me about my life, I'm going to have a guy on at 11 o'clock that I went to school with, that I played ball with. He is a professional softball player, or was a professional softball player, in the Hall of Fame. We played baseball growing up together. If you're back, remember back to the radio days, he's been on several times with me. He is somebody that back in the 80s had a sexual affair with a freshman when he was a junior and got caught by the parents. And it was a black on white thing. He's black. The girl was white. And he has been carrying around a sexual predator tag for his entire life. And here's a guy that wants to coach baseball, wants to be around kids. And the whole thing is just mushroomed into this crazy scenario where he's 56 years old and he's still considered a sexual predator.
Wow.
for things that he did when he was a young man in high school. And I
Sounds
just
like
think
Jeffrey Winehouse.
to me, it's crazy. But I think the story that I'm going to tell you about, his name is Curtis Wilson. I think the story will resonate with a lot of people. Number one, you'll learn a lot about us growing up because we grew up in the same neighborhood under the same circumstances. Number two, I believe that he got busted, and the reason the story came to light was because of license plate readers. I think he was going to the park. I think he wants to raise money today for a documentary that's getting ready to come out, and we'll play some clips of the documentary about his life. If ever there should be a movie made about somebody's life, it should be Curtis. This is one of the wildest stories. He was the leader of the Gangster Disciples at age like 21 years old. It's a gang. It's an enormous gang. It's got a hierarchy. It's got members, I assume, all over the country. And he was running that operation at 20. At the same time, he was in the minor league baseball system. Crazy, crazy story.
Wow.
So we'll get to him at 11 o'clock. I think people, a little break from politics, but I think it'll blow your mind, the story. He comes on at 11 o'clock today. All right. People's Lobby Mo. We just got a nice check in the mail for People's Lobby, Missouri.
Oh, beautiful.
Yes, it was from Linda Rance's group. They like us because we're talking about the constitutional sheriff laws. So we got a check in the mail last night, and I was like, well, that's kind of nice. I wasn't expecting that. How beautiful is that?
Oh,
So
praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord. Exactly. So People's Lobby Mo, again, peopleslobbymo.com. We'll have act4mo.org on in just a second. Just like Robb Maina said, whether you agree with him or don't agree with him, we got to do the work ourselves. We have got to be able to organize people that otherwise would have no understanding of what goes on in their government. We have to organize people, and we have to be able to shift what is going on in our country right now back into a constitutional republic, back to constitutional authority, because right now our politicians just make up whatever laws they want. I didn't even ask them about whether the Iran war was constitutional, because it's not. It's not a constitutional war. Nobody's paying attention to the Constitution anymore. Very dangerous position for us to be in, and certainly a dangerous position to leave our kids and grandkids in. I think we all know that. peopleslobbymo.com. Please check out the website, peopleslobbymo.com. Check out the website. If you can donate, great. We'd certainly love to have your donations. If you don't have the money to donate or just don't want to donate for whatever reason, please sign up so that we can communicate with you, because the bigger we grow this family, the more political sway we're going to have. When you don't like what's going on in Jefferson City, when you just think this is absolute BS, I can't take it anymore, wouldn't it be nice to be a part of a family that's going to go solicit them for you, to lobby them for you, to stay in front of them, to ask them difficult questions, to follow them around, to monitor their every movement and report back to you, to put pressure on them to get back into a constitutional framework? That's what People's Lobby Mo is all about, baby. peopleslobbymo.com. Check it out. All right. And then we got Rack Custom Coatings, Isaiah. RackCustomCoatings.com, RackCustomCoatings.com. We talk about it every single day. This is a family-owned, locally owned and operated business since 2001. Our friend Rich McQuay, if you are somebody who wants to resurface the floor of your garage because you understand how much curb appeal it gives your home, and or you have a man cave out there, you're bringing the friends over on Sunday to watch the football games, and you don't want oil stains and cobwebs all in the corner, so you get a nice floor. It looks fantastic. It's much more accommodating if you are somebody who has a garage man cave, or if you just have really nice cars, or if you just really want your house to be improved. It is rackcustomcoatings.com. And again, he does big jobs. So the garages are the small thing, but he does industrial spaces, schools, showroom floors for car dealerships, you name it. Beautiful work, talented guy. As he likes to say, we install industrial strength, long-lasting coatings built to handle anything your home or business can throw at them. And from garages to commercial spaces, Rack, R-A-K Custom Coatings delivers tough, beautiful finishes that last. Where quality meets craftsmanship, you can reach our friend Rich McQuay at 636-398-5040, 636-398-5040, or check them out at Rack, R-A-K, customcoatings.com. And then we got to talk about advanced wellness. We had the very sad story where you and I broke up yesterday. It was a little uncomfortable for me and you. I think we're trying to not break, as this woman was telling the story of her daughter with brain cancer. This is our friend, Dr. Helen Gelhot, right there in St. Louis. Easy to get to. Be the best call you ever made. If you know somebody in your family, maybe it's a friend, a relative, brother, sister, you name it, who suffers from dementia or Alzheimer's, you got to get a hold of Dr. Helen Gelhot. Don't make me beg. Get a hold of Dr. Helen Gelhot. Symptom reversal for Alzheimer's and dementia. Anybody that has somebody suffering from these diseases in their family, you know exactly the problems you're going to run into take that first step. Do it quick. Do it fast. Right away. Make that phone call to Dr. Helen Gelhot, 314-576-0094. She also has the earliest cancer detection blood test available. She gives pre-screenings for heart attacks and strokes. Anything that kills you, she specializes in, and she got out of the hospital administrations to do the right kind of care for you, to provide the right kind of care for you, I should say. She likes to say, feel, think, look better, and live longer. Dr. Helen Gelhot, friend of the show, 314-576-0094, or check her out at advancedwellnessmed.com. And then we got Jones Water. Did I send that over to you, the video for Jones Water, Isaiah?
You did not.
Okay, let's skip him for now, and we'll come back to it, and I'll send you that because he's got a little visual. He's running a $250.
Oh, very cool.
I don't want to blow that for him. Let's go to Valvoline. Valvoline Express Care. Very quickly, when it's time for an oil change, mostly on the weekends, he tells me, he goes, Rob, I don't know why people always come out on the weekends to get oil changes, but that's how they do it. It's the weekend, and it's time for an oil change. Always think Valvoline Express Care and our good friend, Tony Clark. Locations. Let's get those locations up, Isaiah, for me, because I think they're backwards on my thing. Cape Girardeau, Missouri, Highland, Illinois, Troy, Illinois, Lee May Ferry Road, Warrenton, Missouri, Mid Rivers Mall Drive, or St. Peter's Parkway. It is Valvoline Express. If you need some coupons, Valvoline-expresscare.com. Valvoline-expresscare.com. Why Valvoline Express? Why Tony Clark? 15 minutes from bay to on your way. Quick, easy, efficient oil changes, no sales pressure, no nonsense, all Valvoline branded products. It is Tony Clark. If you don't have that sticker in your window, Isaiah, how in the world can we possibly be friends? Valvoline Express.
All the cars at Moe's last night.
What's that?
I checked all the cars at Moe's last night.
Throwing rocks at the ones that didn't. And then last one I want to get out, Debbie Genus. She said, Rob, I've been crazy busy. I think she has 6 listings in the last 2 weeks. So Debbie Genus, she's our realtor for the show. If you're a friend of the show, if you understand what we're trying to get accomplished here, and you're selling a home or buying a home in Missouri, Illinois, or Florida, it is Debbie Genus. 28 years in the business, 14 years in insurance, reliable, been through the ups and downs and the crazy turnarounds. That is Deborah.Genus at exprealty.com. Deborah.Genus, Jeanis at exprealty.com. She is our realtor. If it's time to buy or sell a home and you're in Missouri, Illinois, or Florida, you got to reach out to her. Deborah.Genus, Jeanis at exprealty.com. All right, let's bring in Mike and Amy, and you might want to show them some video, Isaiah.
Yeah,
you saw last night. I don't know if
I got 2 videos, Mike and Amy, from the 2 questions that I got to submit last night. So if we wanted to watch,
there they are.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Hi, Missouri. We're good.
You want to see a little video, or do you want to talk about
Sure.
prepared?
Sure.
I don't even know what Isaiah's got going on here. He was going to show it to me early, but we have
Rob. So be prepared.
I haven't seen it. Either.
I'm joking.
All right, so this is, and who's answering the question? Bishop Davidson?
Yeah, so I think Representative Davidson did answer both questions. I didn't know when they were going to ask my question, so I didn't get to start recording until kind of they are already asking the question. So I'll read the questions before I.
What was your wife doing, Isaiah? Is she not participating in what's going on around here?
Oh, she was. She was there. Yeah, she was there. I actually wrote a question and she wrote a question so that we could get 2 questions, and they didn't try to,
I'm teasing her.
Way to work as a team. Good job.
Exactly. Yeah. I was teasing her, of course. All right. So you're going to see a little video from Moe's Pizza last night. And again, if you're just joining us, we have Act 4 Missouri. We're going to talk about Amendment 5. Isaiah was out in Washington, Missouri at one of our advertisers, Moe's Pizza, with a political meeting last night. And you had the people that were advocates of A5 show up. So you have Scott Sloan, who I guess was a mediator of sorts. He owns newspapers in Missouri.
He's kind of like an MC host, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
He's like an MC host. Okay. And then you have Camellia from Americans for Prosperity. Then you have Bishop Davidson, who I think was co-author of this bill, or I think was he co-author? I think he was co-author of the bill.
Sponsor.
He was the sponsor of the bill. Okay. And then you have Ben Brown, who's from Franklin County, who was also there. So I don't know anything that went on last night. You and I talked, Isaiah, for just a bit. You said everybody was very cordial. The crowd was a little bit hostile. It does not appear that they were swaying a lot of opinions last night. But here is just a little video that Isaiah took at that meeting last night at Moe's Pizza. Here we go.
This one is, so this question was, Amendment 5 suspends Section 18E of the Hancock Amendment. which is the voter approval requirement for major state tax increases, for 5 full years during the exact period when the biggest tax restructuring in decades would occur. Why should Missouri voters give up their constitutional right to approve or reject these sweeping tax changes? And how is removing that protection not simply giving the legislature a 5-year window to expand taxes without the people's consent? So that was the question, and this is their answer.
Yeah, so that last one's Council of Economic Advisors came out with a study on the.
Nope. So this one, sorry, I thought this was a different one. So this one is proponents call this revenue neutral, but the shift from an income tax to a much broader sales tax typically increases the tax burden on lower and middle income households and retirees on fixed incomes because they spend a higher percentage of their income on taxable goods and services. How does Amendment 5 guarantee that their average Missouri family or senior won't end up paying more overall? And can you point to a specific independent analysis showing the net impact on households earning under $75,000? So he answers the last question first. That's what we're going to hear here.
Okay.
Tax on states in January of this year, and it had Missouri-specific data, and it contemplated replacing income tax with a 6% sales tax. It said after all adjustments, and I cited it earlier, there'd be 2,704 to 2,872 new dollars. That's the second question. The first question goes back to kind of this conversation that we were having before. And I think the second question maybe answers the first question. When we think about tax policy, it's not just about the percentage of the tax, it's also about what that tax does to the economic environment that we live in. And right now, it is causing jobs to leave the state, it's causing young people to leave the state. We get older and older each year as an average across our state, and we want to reverse that. And so if we want to encourage economic growth, we need a tax policy that doesn't penalize economic growth. There's more to be said, but I know you've got a whole handful of questions.
That was his answer to that question about the income. I can get the exact study that he cited, but he cited some.
Yeah, I'd like to see that study.
Yeah, because they said, I don't know if you heard him. I know it's hard because I'm recording my phone, but he said that there's over 2,000 new dollars that would be generated for people that are making under $75,000 a year.
Yeah, to keep in there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, these studies, it all depends on what you're looking at. I mean, there's also the truth that if you tax something, you get less of it. So there's going to be an economic impact from taxing services that people will buy less of them.
Yeah.
That question also brings up something interesting that Amy found and realized over the last couple of days, and we verified this. They keep saying revenue neutral, and I always look at it, it's revenue neutral for the government, not for the people. But if you look at the bill, the words revenue neutral are not in the bill at all, not in the legislation at all.
No.
What they use is substantially equal.
Mm-hmm.
And
we need to talk about
I
that.
asked Bishop Davidson about that last night. I said, I asked him privately, and then I asked because they were taking questions from the crowd, and so I just shouted it out, and I said, hey, you guys are saying revenue neutral. Governor Kehoe is saying that people are going to get, this is going to put $2,000 or $3,000 back in people's pockets, but you guys are out here saying it's revenue neutral. And the Secretary of State says that it's not, they don't know what the tax increase or decrease is going to be, right? Mm-hmm. And then the bill says substantially equal. So what's the case here? Because if the bill says substantially equal, I said that gives a lot of legal leeway to not necessarily actually be dollar for dollar. And his answer was, well, we can't get dollar for dollar, Isaiah. Of course, that'd be ridiculous to say that, right?
And to your point of the leeway that term gives them, I've been trying to dig into the legal definition of that, and it is hard to get to a legal definition, but in some cases that can be as much as 15% of being equal. There's cases that was ruled substantially equal. The bottom line, though, from everything I can tell, is that they'll actually get to say in the legislation that they write, if this passes, when they start passing these taxes on services and whatnot, they'll be able to define substantially equal in those legislations then, and that's probably where we're going to see that come into play. But it is important that people realize that revenue neutral sounds better to the public than substantially equal. Substantially equal, I think a lot of people will start to say, okay, well, hold on a second, what does that mean? And they don't want to have that discussion. I think that's why they've chosen to use a term that's not actually in the legislation.
Well, yeah, revenue neutral, substantially shouldn't even be with the word equal.
Yeah, I know.
It's like what?
That's the problem when they say go read the bill for yourself. I think I'm not, I always say not a genius, but I'm of average intelligence at least, right? So if I'm of average intelligence and I read a bill and I can't really make head or tails of it doesn't really help you to read a bill unless you're an attorney. I can't have an attorney with me. You know what I mean? A constitutional attorney or a contract attorney to read along with me, because if it was broken down that said boom, 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 the average citizen could understand it.
Attorneys love terms like that.
Right. That's what I mean.
Because this is something that two attorneys can argue for months about what that means.
Yeah.
Which I think they like, by the way. I think they like
absolutely.
that wiggle room.
They get more fees.
Yeah. What did you guys find out about the toll roads? Because that's how I kind of prepped the show. You guys made mention of it. And I'm like, a lot of people have been saying this could open the door for toll roads, which I think you guys might have heard me. I hate toll roads. Florida has toll roads. I can't stand it. When I lived in Chicago, one of the reasons I wanted to get out of Chicago as fast as I could was because I love the people. I had a great time in Chicago. I enjoyed it. I hated traveling anywhere in the Chicago area because of the toll roads back in 1992, 93 timeframe. I just couldn't stand it. So if they come to Missouri, I'm going to lose it. I don't want any toll roads in Missouri under any circumstances, no matter what. I have a tough time thinking they could get toll roads put into Missouri, but who knows what they're up to? What are you guys finding out?
Well, there's nothing we can say definitively, but one thing people, they tell you to read the legislation, and you should, but then they tell you, well,
my cat is pro A because she won't leave me alone. That's why I said.
I was wondering what was going on there. I was like, I see
this issue. I told Mike, I said, I feel like this is an adolescent child that wants something, right? And they just keep hounding you, and they've got their rationale to the parent why they want it, and you said no 100 times. It's not happening. It's no on 5. That's all I'm saying. It's no on 5. And they come back and they go, yeah, but it's revenue neutral. Yeah, but I'm like, I'm done. I'm like, it's a no. The people are no. And it's a no on 5, Miss Kitty. That's all there is to it.
That's too cute, by the way.
Sorry, guys.
All right.
My life.
All right. So
diverted Mike off his spot.
Yeah, sorry, Mike. Okay.
No problem at all. I'm ready to pick right back up. So when you read the legislation, you have to understand that every word in there is in there for a reason. And so they're telling everybody to read the legislation, but then you start saying, well, what about the Hancock? Well, that's not really we're not really suspending it. That's just a margin error. And we can get into that too, if we want to, but back to the highway stuff. Article 4, sections 30B, C, and D are exempted in this legislation. So you have to ask yourself, that's Missouri's Road and Transportation Fund protections. And this is an income tax bill. So why are they putting that in there? And so that's what opens up all the questions. And, the Shield Maidens have started looking into that, and they were the first ones to start to spec. Maybe this has something to do with toll roads. So I started looking into this deeper yesterday. And what I found out is pretty interesting. So in 1967, the legislature passed what they called the Missouri Turnpike Authority Act. And it was struck down unanimously by the Missouri Supreme Court in Poll versus the State Highway Commission. And the reason they struck it down was this section 430B. And they said that constitutional protection would prevent them from having the toll roads. And so they struck down that bill. So that's all the way back to 1967. So when Amy talks about the teenager wanting something, they've been wanting toll roads for a long time. In 1970 and 1992, they put something on the ballot, and the voters rejected it by 71% and 57%. In 2001, they tried again. It passed in the House, but it died in the Senate. And here's what's really interesting to me, given our current history. I started going back through and searching, and I found a bill that we actually missed this session because it didn't go anywhere. But it was an HJR, which would be another constitutional amendment, and it was filed on February 25th, 2026 by Representative Riggs. And the bill is HJR 194, and it would have rewritten Section 30B, and it basically would have rewritten it to allow them to change the Constitution so that they could provide toll roads for 4-lane highways and interstates.
Directly reversing what Pohl struck down in 1968.
Yeah, directly. But again, that's the same section that Amendment 5 is asking the people to suspend for 5 years. So there's something there. What it is, they know because they left it in there. There's no reason to have this section in this legislation at all unless there's a bigger plan in place.
Right, because
it's also super interesting to me that Highway 70 is getting it's getting widened all the way from
exactly.
That's the transatlantic corridor, right? We think that
very interesting.
We are actually thinking this because the amount of money that's come in for this, I keep thinking this is bigger than tax. I mean, we're at $10 million to promote for a yes on Amendment 5.
So looking at the money that's come in, and again, right now we can't see all the details. Only thing that we can see is they have to report any donation larger than $5,000 immediately within 24 hours. The July reports are going to be coming out in a week or so, and then we'll get all the details. But Missouri Promise has brought in $9.6 million so far. And interestingly enough, they keep telling us that they're winning on this. But in the last 7 days or so, they brought in 6.2 million of that came in just the last 7 days. So they're bringing in a lot of money. If they were winning this by the margins that they claim, then I don't think they would be bringing in that much money. Now, on the other side, the only PAC that I could find that has had donations that I can see is Missouri for Fair Taxation. And this is the one that's supported by Missouri Realtors. And they're at 1.9, just a little bit over $1.9 million. So the money coming on from the opposition is not as 1/10 basically, or 2/10 of what the pro people are bringing in.
Do you guys happen to know, Isaiah and I were talking about this last night, and I don't know the answer to this, but I have a hunch. I just got a vibe that who told us, Isaiah, that you get a bonus if you get these things passed? It feels like there's a commission available. It just feels like there's a commission structure to these people because they're coming out, they're going to Moe's Pizza out in Washington, Missouri on a Thursday evening, and they're working their tails off to sell this thing. And I'm just wondering if these groups like Americans for Prosperity and so forth, they push the deal. People within their organization get some kind of benefit if they're able to get this legislation passed, because you can't throw them off their talking points. They're on a mission. It doesn't feel like it's an open conversation sometimes when you hear them, that they're trying to say, you know what, I never thought of it. We should close that loophole up on the toll roads. That's just something that shouldn't be. Let's get that out of there. It doesn't feel like a give and take. It feels like a hardcore sales job at the people of Missouri. Do you sense that there is some financial gain, not just for promoting it, not like you're getting an hourly pay to go out and promote these things and so forth, but maybe some kind of carrot at the end if this thing does pass? Do you sense that, or do you know anything about it? I'm just curious.
I have no knowledge of it, but
okay.
it
not a monetary
definitely feels
carrot,
that way.
Not a monetary carrot, but I do think somebody who's going to be running for election again, or a position in a committee, say, hey, help us out now. We'll be sure and have your back.
Right. So now you get a campaign donation if you get this thing passed, or you work to get it passed.
I feel like it's more like that. So not actually like we're going to pay you a commission $5,000 if you get
going back to that $9 million that's been brought in. Of course we don't know. Most of that's coming through dark money sources, basically with the structure they set up with the Delaware Corporation and stuff. So we don't know the individual donors or groups that are contributing to that, but some of the legislatures might know, because they may be getting told, hey, and if you help the governor, if you're a politician, that's always going to be good for your career, not necessarily good for the people of Missouri, but if they're looking at it slowly from their career advancement point of view, helping the governor and his friends out is always going to be beneficial to them on that side.
Yeah, you're in the top end of the ladder when you start messing with the governor and his buddies. Isaiah, you talked to Bishop Davidson yesterday about the money coming in. What was his response?
Yeah, he said he's not really concerned about it, that he's not concerned about money in politics and things like that. And so I told him, I said, hey, I understand that there are two different views in the Republican Party right now. Some are very pro-growth, and that's why they're not looking at the money and seeing any worries, right? I said, but fiscal conservatives look at that and say, why do you need to spend that much money on passing an amendment that is, the people supposedly support? That's kind of that's how I'm looking at it. And he just doesn't see a problem with it. And I said, what do you think about Amendment 4 then, about getting foreign money out of our elections or anything? And he said, well, I don't think that's what Amendment 4 is really about. I was like, okay, well, that's what a lot of representatives that I've talked with and senators that I've talked with, that's what they tell me it's about when I talk to them. And so I don't know how you can say it's not about getting foreign money out of politics. And so, and he had to run on stage. I was talking to him just one-on-one right before then. And so that was kind of the end of the conversation at that. But one thing I will say, I just want to recognize, because I always like to, I know we always criticize, but the positives, Bishop Davidson was there after I left at 8:40, still talking to people in the parking lot.
We can agree with that. He's fully committed to this.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
Fully committed.
Yeah. And Scott Fawn, he's a salesman, so you can take this with a grain of salt, but he did say on stage with Bishop Davidson, and they didn't say this, but he's like, hey, I'll let you know if this doesn't work. I'll be the first person on the news saying we need to go back. We need to flip this and go back to the way it was before.
See, and that's what scares me the most, Isaiah.
But,
I don't necessarily believe that, but it's I felt like it was a sales tactic in that moment. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
It's like you get a refund if it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because if you take it in context of everything else he was saying, the people would get, be basically yelling at them. They're pissed off at them, and they're saying all these things. And Scott Fawn would kind of say, well, let me tell you about these steel workers I know that, they all moved to Tennessee and blah, 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 blah. And he'd always have a story that he wanted to tell that supports why everything that they just said, right? And people called him out for it. They're like, oh, well, which steel workers, managers or workers? And he goes, the managers. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. Okay.
What was the tone last night, Isaiah? Was it?
Oh, yeah.
I don't
think Franklin County wants Amendment 5. That is for sure.
Well, at least in that room, right?
In that room, I don't know that, I can't say that for all of Franklin. In that room, they did not want Amendment 5. That was very clear.
All right, guys.
Well,
I have one more video I can show too. I have one more question I did get on video. If you guys wanted to ask, you guys did want to see it.
Yeah.
This one was really good. I thought it says the legislature already has the power to continue cutting the income tax rate through ordinary statute, as it has done multiple times. The court had to rewrite the original ballot language because it was misleading voters. Given those facts, why pursue a constitutional amendment that suspends voter protections and delegates massive new taxing power instead of passing targeted statutory income tax cuts or bring more specific, fully voter protected plan to the ballot that keeps the Hancock Amendment intact? And so I think I recorded some of the question being asked, so you might get him saying the same thing, but I at least wanted to get the full question out because I know I didn't get it in the video here.
Facts. Why pursue a constitutional amendment that suspends voter protections, pretty much along your lines, and delegates massive new taxing power instead of passing targeted statutory income tax cuts or bringing a more specific, fully voter protected plan to the ballot that keeps Hancock Amendment intact? This is a serious question. I want to surmise this. I don't know who this was, but if you want to raise your hand, see if you're doing a bad job surmising. I actually thought this myself. Why make it so open-ended? Why not be more specific?
Yeah, so the reason largely is because this is constitutional amendment. We all know about marijuana that passed a few years ago. It's now 20% of our Constitution is basically just a marijuana statute. It's 40 pages, and it's caused all sorts of havoc because it put a bunch of statutory language into the Constitution that you can't change now. The Constitution is a framework. It's not a law book. And so we put in a clear framework for how this is to operate. As far as why it needs to be a constitutional amendment, there's really 3 reasons. One is because of those triggered reductions that the question asks about have happened over the last decade. We want to constitutionally guarantee that they continue happening over the next few decades. Because it will take decades to use that method alone to get to zero. It'll take decades. And so we want to make sure that we actually get to zero. The second reason is there's only one way, or there's only one best way to protect Missourians from income taxes ever coming back, and that's through a constitutional amendment. And that's here in this legislation as well. The third reason it needs to be a constitutional amendment is because those 200 plus loopholes that exist in your sales tax code are constitutionally codified. And if we want to eliminate income taxes this side of 10 years, we have to be able to close those loopholes. But the question that is sort of baked in there, which is about Hancock and to address Hancock, Section 18E is what we're talking about. Section 18E is passed in 1996. It was an amendment to Hancock. It's a really great provision. And it says that the government can't gain new dollars. It doesn't say that this rate can't be increased. It just says if this rate's increased, this other rate has to be decreased. That's what Hancock says. New dollars are prohibited without a vote of the people. This constitutional amendment doesn't allow new dollars without a vote of the people. Because this constitutional amendment requires revenue neutrality and offsets in the same bill and in the same piece of legislation. So the question that people ask after that, and they should, is, well, why do you address Section 18E at all? Why is that even in the constitutional amendment at all? The reason that 18E is there and present is because basically what had happened is 18 and 18E, Hancock and then this edition, were in the original bill. And then I held it up in committee along with a few others saying, hey, we don't like these provisions or those provisions in this part. And so I said, I really want 18 and 18E kind of taken out of this altogether. And someone said, why don't you do the math on 18E? And so I went and did the math and figured it out. And remember, it says new revenue. Well, it defines new revenue as $93 million. That's what it comes out to. And when you're talking about a $7.8 billion income tax, $93 million becomes a really small margin of error. And the stakes were that if we hit $94 million, you now would kick out the whole thing. The whole thing would get kicked out by the courts. And so instead, we addressed 18E in the constitutional amendment, and that created a new problem, which is why the revenue neutral piece. Because that created a problem where we didn't want the legislature to be able to generate new revenue without a vote of the people. And so that's when we added revenue neutrality into the bill to protect the people from that very danger.
Yeah, it seemed like a lot of explanation for something that should have been a lot more simple.
Yes.
I would love to take the shot at this one.
Go, Mike, go.
So, again, imagine this piece of legislation if they had taken the Hancock suspension completely out of the bill. What would happen then if we passed this amendment? Then they would still have their framework in place, and they'd have to come back to they go into next session, and they'd say, okay, let's start writing the legislation to expand sales tax on services. And they'd have to come back and say, okay, we want to tax this services A, B, C, and D at whatever rate. Then they would have to go back to the people, and they'd have to say, okay, you gave us the opportunity to do this. Now, here's what we want to do. If you let us tax these services, we will reduce the income tax by this amount, and the people would get to decide. By keeping this in here, and he's talking about this margin of error, well, $93 million, they said that's the problem is if we raise taxes over $93 million, either the courts are going to throw it out because it doesn't go back to the people, or we're going to have to go back to the people to do it. That's what he's actually saying here. That $93 million is the threshold that they have to work with. If they stay under it, then
they can do whatever.
$93 million doesn't get them the money that they need to do anything. So that's where we're at. That's why this is still in there. And that's why specifically 18E is still in there. he did remove, I think they had A and B or A and C in the original bill, but they didn't need those. That's why they removed those. The one that they needed to exempt was 18E, which is the requirement that it has to go back to the vote of the people. So if they passed a legislation that raised above that $93 million threshold and it didn't have a vote to the people, yes, the courts would throw that out. They'd say that's not legitimate because it violates the protections that we have in 18E.
Very interesting. Did you see Josh Lehman put his?
Yes, good, great explanation. Yep.
Yeah, I thought Josh did a really good job. Josh he's interesting because I think he's like a lot of people that listen to the show. He just feels so betrayed by things that have went down over the last, I think for him probably 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see that distrust everywhere. And I don't think that they feel it as much. I don't know if they felt it in the room last night, but I don't think that the new Congress in Jefferson City recognizes that the people that have been following the political scheme,
Assembly.
the General Assembly, they don't recognize that big portions of the Republican Party in particular just don't trust that they're trying to do the right thing for the citizens. They just don't trust it. And I think that's never more evident than with the gasoline tax. You wouldn't want a Republican administration to pass a gasoline tax and kind of use all kinds of nefarious, in my opinion, kind of crooked ways to get it done. They look at that and go, I just don't, if you're raising gasoline taxes if you're raising gasoline taxes, why would I expect you to be now all of a sudden being benevolent and trying to put more money in my pocket? That's not your track record. And you're talking about the same people with Kehoe involved, right? So I think that is what these guys are going to have a tough time hurdling, but I don't think they see it. Isaiah was telling me they didn't see it.
Bishop Davidson said that. He's like, 80% of the people I feel like I talked to are going to be voting yes on it. And I said, really? I said, I think you're in for a rude awakening to here today. Then I was like, definitely not here. I told him, I said, I'm an alderman here in this.
Who said that?
Representative Davidson, Bishop Davidson.
Well, I just think there's something. How can I say this? When something's really big on the line, you can't you can't get off of your talking points, right? You just have, you're almost convincing yourself that this is what it's.
Well, that's why I asked.
And I could tell he was uncomfortable with some of the questions I was asking him one-on-one, because I was like, he's like, dang, he knows what he's talking about. And he would say this, and I'm like, but this, and he's like, well, yeah. And so I could tell that he, and it was not just me. I will say that it's probably it's probably you guys enabling people with this information, but a lot of people had really good questions last night, and multiple people yelled out in the crowd, "We don't trust you."
Wow.
One thing that we have to remember, and I think it's changing, but Rush Limbaugh used to talk about this too, that everybody's mad at Congress. The same thing applies to the General Assembly, but their guy's not the problem, because their guy comes home, he talks to them, and he sounds good, and they don't really know the questions to ask, so they're able to win them over. And I think that's changing because people are starting to see, hey, it is my guy that's voting for this stuff. But I think there's some of that going on, and that's why they don't realize how angry people are. When me and Amy, we were just at an event here this week, Wednesday night in Camden County. The people are angry when we go to these small meetings and groups around the state. And once the more they understand what's going on, the more angry they're getting. So I think they're changing.
And I just think the politicians, I think they're out of touch, and I think there is a little bit of this attitude that the people don't know what they're talking about. We know. We're the experts. Who are you peons? And that needs to flip. So I think, you're starting to see some of them like, shoot, we better listen up because people are mad. But there is a condescending attitude. I mean, I see it on Facebook all the time. I mean, Tim Jones is the worst. Nick Schroer. I mean, the disdain for the public is at Byron Keeling. They're all starting to get very condescending. And I'm telling you, there's more of us than there are them. So that attitude needs to change. Who the heck are you guys to talk to people who pay your wage like that? I don't think, if people don't understand this, they're not dumb. You haven't figured it a way to explain it to them. That's your job. I get really fed up with, I love the country. I love the citizens. I love the people. And when I see somebody just be so disrespectful to citizens, it's just wrong. It's so if you sit there and say you're a Christian or you're a Republican or you're a conservative and you act like that,
yeah, I must
I
admit.
asked the same question to Representative Davidson and Senator Brown last night because I told them, I said the biggest hurdle that I'm hearing from the people is that they don't trust you, right? And Representative Davidson goes, "Oh, well, why don't they trust the legislature?" He literally said that right away.
I know they just it's just this. I'm all knowing. And I'll go back to my thing. My God, they'll trust you to make the money to pay their, donate to their campaign. But when you come to them with a legitimate question about policy, you're not smart enough.
Senator Brown had a better answer. He said, "That's why I'm here tonight, to talk to the people." And I appreciated that answer. And I said, "And I appreciate you being here because not everyone would do this."
And I do appreciate them being, I think it's helpful because I think, one, we're making them work.
Oh, yeah.
And they're working hard. They are. They're out there. They're out, like I said, till 8:30. They're probably thinking, geez, we have never had to work this hard on it.
Front and center.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Front and center. Yeah. That's what I say. Got to get these people front and
center.
It
is challenging. And I do appreciate them doing that. But I think we got to turn a little bit of a, tide with the attitudes and stuff. And it is working because the people are asking better questions and they're realizing those simple answers, those talking points aren't cutting it anymore.
Can I give you an idea of something I want to do real fast? I want to run this past you because I've been thinking about it and I've actually talked to AI about it. And I said, why wouldn't we have more meetings where the audience are the people from the politicians from your town? So for example, we go to St. Charles County and you got elected officials and they're listening to the people talk for a change. We're not asking them questions anymore, saying, look, these are the things that we want accomplished. And we want you to put a framework in place to accomplish these things. For example, if you don't want AI data centers and flock cameras in St. Charles County, I don't want to listen to politicians preach to me why they're good for me. I want them to understand that we believe it's not constitutional. We don't want them in our town. You're not going to be knocking on doors, people going, yeah, flock cameras, get more flock cameras. Put one right down my street. Get more flock cameras. You're not going to hear that. You're going to hear very angry people saying we don't want surveilled in our town and we want you to put the framework in place and we want it by next Tuesday. And we want to see what you guys are putting forth to get things done. It seems like the balance of power in this constitutional republic has shifted from the citizen having the power to the politicians having all the information, all the power, the ability to write legislation that nobody understands, have no cameras in the Senate, pick their speakers in advance, all of these things that are not beneficial to the average citizen, but beneficial to the Republican Party and the system. And I just think that needs to change at some point. If we were to have a meeting and say, we're going to bring in as many government officials from St. Charles County, and we want to talk to you about things as a grassroots organization that we see that are going wrong in the state of St. Charles County. We don't want any answers from you. We want you to take notes about the things that we're saying. Does that seem absolutely insane in today's world? Or would that be just every once in a while, would that be a better way to go about things to say, this is what the grassroots is looking at. These are the things we want you to accomplish. We want you to hear us out, go home, think about it. And then we want to find out whether you're doing it or not. It's the same thing with Jeffrey Winehouse. I know you guys have heard me tell the story before. How many people should I bring this case to?
Well, my guess with that is, my guess with that is the politicians are tied in somehow with what he exposed. They can't let him out. They can't get to that. That's why nobody's giving you any, because even if they bring it up to a colleague, let's say a Republican colleague, they're going to say, hey, you know what, that was Judge so-and-so and this senator and that, and they were doing this and that. And that's what happens when you expose the corruption. They're going to take you down, either financially or in jail.
They shot him 4 times and put him in prison for his troubles.
We're going to kill him because he knew something. And I don't think anybody's.
Well, Rob, I hope you're keeping a list of the politicians that you brought this up to.
Oh, yes.
Because if they don't do anything and they're not willing to at least push on this, that's also very telling to the rest of the state.
Yes, agreed. That's why I'm doing it, by the way. So everybody that comes on that's a politician that's in office, I ask them that question because I'm going to eventually put all those clips together. And then that's why I said with the pressure, right? Pressure. Now, People's Lobby Missouri and Act for Missouri, we're not really into the judicial system and making sure that Jeffrey Winehouse gets out of prison, but it is something you have to pay attention to because if there isn't any justice, if you know that there's a political prisoner sitting in prison and you bring this up to 25 or 30 or 40 prominent Democrats and Republicans, and they don't even respond to you, they don't put out any kind of press release, they don't say, we've looked at this case, you're right, we got to do something about this. If they don't do that, then they're not serving the people. That's just the way you would look at it.
Well,
So
he's a political prisoner. You just said it.
right. So they're
He's
not serving the people. If you have a political prisoner, then
Mhm.
I have to question you on taxes. I have to question you on every time that you raise, because if you're not out there trying to get a man that is in prison when he videotaped his own assassination attempt, then I cannot look you in the eye and go, I think you're probably trying to do the best for me. I just can't get to that point. That's why I'm kind of like Bryant Wolf, and everything they do seems a little bit out of line to me. Therefore, stopping legislation might be better than trying to pass legislation.
Well, that's where we're at. Is
Yeah.
we realized that the best thing we can do is try to stop as much of the legislation as we can.
I mean, that's really where we think our newly elected should just focus on, is just stop, just put the blocks. And of course, the Republican Party doesn't like to hear that, and we're traitors, et cetera, because they've got corporate. He mentioned those 200 plus loopholes. I just think this is so crazy, because if this passes, all those lobby groups are going to come in, and all those industries are going to be at the advocacy table to get an exemption. So I feel like, if anything, this is they want to swap the 200 loopholes. Somebody who doesn't want to, do you know what I'm saying? I feel like they want somebody to get out of the exemption, and they want to put somebody else back in. Who the heck knows who that is? But we already know for a fact the funeral industry is already ready to lobby. They do not want to be part of this sales tax. So there's one major industry right there. I'm sure real estate, they're all going to go back. They're all going to go back to the table and want to be exempt from this sales tax and services tax, excuse me. And so then who's going to get that deficit of the service taxes? You and I. That percentage goes up for every single one of those, if they want to do it in the rapid fashion that,
On that note, let me read a quote from Ray McCarty. He's coming on
next week.
Oh, awesome.
Yes, I'll
have him on Wednesday of next week.
He's been involved in writing tax policy in the state of Missouri for almost 40 years. He said this in a video with Joe Nicola a week or two ago. For 5 years, we're going to have essentially an all-out war to figure out what should be subject to tax and what shouldn't be. There are how many hundreds of lobbyists in that building, and all of them will have constituents that will hire them to come in and make sure they don't get taxed.
Well, that's what was my argument when we had Ben Keithley on. I said, Ben, one of the things that bothers me about this is the power that you guys are going to have. And he didn't see it that way, but I didn't really understand the answer. But I'm saying you're getting now power to say, okay, this industry is going to get taxed. This industry, well, we're not going to tax this industry. But I said, now you're picking winners and losers. I said, at the level that you're at, picking winners and losers when it comes to taxes gives you absolutely crazy, insane like power. And I said, that's the one thing that makes me nervous. And, it's like Amendment 4, right? They're saying they don't want out-of-state money, but then Amendment 5 out-of-state money comes in, and according to Bishop Davidson, they don't really care about that. I'm like, well, it's kind of a mixed message.
Yeah, they don't care about it if it's for their cause.
That was the argument that we were making, right? If you like it, then you don't care about the money coming in, but if you don't like it, now it's foreign out-of-state money, and it's communist money, and you're, Marxist dictators kind of thing.
Right. That's why I said this is a citizens against the General Assembly, not a Republican kind of issue.
So you guys are a firm no for Amendment 5. I can tell.
Oh my gosh, I can't say it enough. I mean, it's like I said, I'm like, look at these kids.
I'm also a firm. I would love to see us get rid of the personal income tax, but I'd like to see us do it the way Arkansas is doing it right now, the way we were doing it prior to this, as we grow. And if they want to speed that up, hey, get in that budget and start cutting things and reduce the time that way. It doesn't take a constitutional amendment to do that.
But let's talk about this revenue growth, because I feel like they keep saying that, and I'm like, what? I think they want corporation growth is what they say. When we hear revenue growth as citizens, I think we think, oh, we want, I need a new neighbor. I want somebody to move in and build a house in my, my development. Or, that's kind of that's how I think.
That's exactly what they talked about last night, Amy. They said we need to get rid of the income tax to attack them, to attract the business.
I think this is we want big corporation. We want data centers. We want, and I'm like, okay, where is this all moving to? Where is it going? This is part of a bigger thing, and it's just really hard to figure out. You wish you could be a fly on the wall with some of those conversations. But I think we've got globalists, in our government. They're talking to the powers even up above. They're, See, Rhino Watch, bingo.
I was just getting ready to say when he said bingo, Amy Corporate. That's what he said in his when he was doing his little social media post. That's basically what he said. He said you got big tax benefits for Meta. We saw what they did. They had to twist themselves in a pretzel to give those tax breaks to the Royals and the Chiefs, if you remember. And they were so twisted into a knot that they had a 75 subject bill that they tried to put together. Everybody knew that it wasn't going to last, but you know who was going to get the breaks were the Royals and the Chiefs. And they did all this kind of, you remember that bill, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of tells you where their heart is.
So this word, again, the terms, and for me, I'm blessed with the ability, the terms click in my ear. It's like they kind of jump out in the air or they jump off the page, draws my attention to it. This revenue, we want to grow revenue, net revenue neutral. It starts to me, it just sounds like this. It just keeps going. I'm like, there's something off with that word. There's something off with that word. I do think that they want the growth, but they're not defining it, And in our minds, we're like, we want our state to grow and have great people and, development. But, and Mike and I've talked about this. I'm like, okay, let's say Missouri is stagnant. Let's say that's true. Okay, why is it stagnant? What are the other factors? There's always push and pull factors to why people come to a state or leave a state. And we only hear the income tax. But Mike and I, we were talking as young professionals, I said, did you ever consider the income tax before you moved somewhere? I always looked at, do I have safe metropolitan cities? Look at our cities. You want to move to St. Louis? Where do you want to go? Columbia?
Well, it's interesting you say that because I'm a poster boy for what they're selling, quite honestly. But I was a poster boy for what they were selling when the Missouri income tax was 6.5% when I left, right? I had just taken $120,000 pay cut. I had obligations to my family. I'd already said I had I could not change the amount of money I was giving my ex-wife. I couldn't change it. It was non-modifiable. I signed okay. I said, listen, my daughter was 10 when we started the divorce. I said, I'll make sure that you don't have to work until Anna is 18 or through college. I wanted to make that deal. So it wasn't even like the courts getting involved. I'm like, this is our agreement between me and you as parents, right? I didn't want you to work. You didn't have to work. And now that we're getting divorced, I still want my daughter. I want you home when she gets home from school. That was our family agreement, right? So when the divorce happened and I lost a big chunk of my income, you lost a third of my income overnight, just bam, your corporate changes and all of a sudden you're down, now all of a sudden that money becomes tight. I couldn't afford to pay that money that I thought I was going to have, you're young. And stuff, but that was money was coming in forever. So when that happened, I was talking to my new wife, lived in Florida, and she said, well, honey, just stay in Missouri until Anna gets out of high school. And I said, well, that's the plan. I said, but I'm starting to look at the finances here and I'm not sure that I can. So I looked at the income tax rate at 6.5%. And when it was all said and done with all the different monies I had coming in, it was a $20,000 deal for me. And I still had, she was 16 years old at the time. I still had 5 or 6 more years to pay. Well, so you're talking about $20,000 a year for 5 or 6. That's $120,000.
And I think that makes sense.
I was making a lot of income. That's the difference. I don't make that kind of income now, and I don't think most people make that income. So it was a benefit for me. I don't know if it's a benefit for everybody.
And to caveat off that, Scott Fawn said last night, which was I did think was interesting, but I know it's a sales tactic. He said maybe if we saw our income tax check, we'd feel the same as we do about property tax. He said, because we have to write that property tax check every year. And he said, if we had to write a check, maybe we would feel the same.
Well,
I heard him say that. Yeah.
And there's some truth to that, but at least with the income tax, you do know what that amount is at the end of the year. With the sales tax, unless people keep every receipt of every sales,
you're not going to see that either.
You're never going to know what that total amount is. And that's one of the reasons I think politicians prefer this type of tax is because, you feel it when you go and buy something, you say, well, crap, the sales tax was this much on that, but you don't feel the whole amount for the whole year when you get to the end of the year, like you do with your income tax, which for me, one of my big things is we've got to reduce the size of government. And so to do that, we have to have that discussion. And that starts when people say, why am I paying this much money? And
yeah. Well, you guys are kind of making the same point that Josh Lehman was making. He's the rhino hunter. He's on the screen right now. Because when I heard him say it when he was doing, sometimes I'm a slow learner, right? I'm trying to figure this thing out. I'm trying to make a good decision. I don't want to lead people astray. And I want to make sure that I understand what I'm talking about when I finally get there. So I was listening to him. on that social media post, and he said, why not just as your revenue goes up, why not tick down and why do you need to switch the tax if you're a real fiscal conservative? Why don't you say as revenue grows in your state, then you'll use it to reduce income tax? And I thought, yeah, that's right. That's the way a conservative would look. I didn't even think of it, but you're right. That is the way a conservative would look at it, is take your surpluses, pay down the income tax. Why switch it when you're already working away from it right now?
If their whole argument is this will bring in more revenue to the state, we will grow our economy by reducing the income tax, then why not do it just like that? That's what Arkansas is doing. That's what we were doing here. Why not take it all the way down to zero, doing it that way?
Right, which makes you think there's more to this. We just don't know. Like Jennifer wants to tar and feather everybody.
we have people that are listening to the show that have t-shirts.
I understand the frustration, Jennifer. I really do.
We have people listening to the show right now that made t-shirts that said the last step is to tar and feather. That's where we're at. I don't
Jennifer's there, it looks like.
Yeah, I don't think that the people writing this bill think that it is anything but good. I really do. I think the disconnect with us and them is we don't trust what's going to happen. And when Scott Fawn said, if this turns out to be a bad bill, I'll be the first one to say something about it. That tells me there's not enough structure in place for us to feel safe that this is going to be a benefit to the majority of Missouri citizens. And if that's not the case, you are saying no matter how you square it, you got to trust us. We're putting this together for you. And I just don't know that they put that much trust.
That's the biggest problem I heard last night is they said no framework. So how can I vote on something that I don't have a framework for?
And I know Bishop Davidson, didn't he say, well, you can't, and I get you can't put all of this stuff in there in the Constitution.
That's because this is not the kind of thing that needs to be in the Constitution. Can you imagine putting something in the U.S. Constitution that expires in 5 years? That's what they're doing here. That should be in our Constitution. This is not the way to do this. There is a simple way to do this. They know that. I think, again, I keep going back to, if you look at the level of spending, you look at where the state of our state is as far as financially, we're on the edge of the cliff and probably going to go over the cliff next session if this doesn't pass, because they need that additional revenue. This would buy them 2 or 3 years or more, where they would have both the new sales taxes and the income tax before they have to reduce them. I think that's really what, as far as the core of our General Assembly folks, I think that's what this is about. If this toll road things is even has any chance, we know they want it now because they did file a bill last time.
Who filed that bill, by the way? I meant to ask that. In fact, you were leading me right into my next question with you. So who filed that bill? I don't know that name. Riggs?
Let me find it here. Representative Riggs.
But it was 2026. So
Democrat or Republican?
He's a Republican. Yeah, I think he's in. I'm not going to guess because I think he's in the 5th district.
So a Republican in the General Assembly put forth legislation to allow for toll roads in the state of Missouri.
Yep. And now it didn't go anywhere, but let me tell you how this thing works. Because
how is that a Republican though?
So next year somebody
there you go again.
He may file it again, and it may go a little bit further. It may not make it through even next year. But what happens eventually, we hear this all the time on the floor, on the House and the Senate. People will get up and say, well, they'll take a bill like this and they'll add it to another bill as an amendment. And then somebody will get up and say, but has that bill been vetted? And the guy that sponsored it will come up and say, well, I filed it in 2026 and 2027, and it's been thoroughly looked at. So no need to go read it and read the details. Just, we've already done that. Let's just add it to this bill and move it forward. And that's how this game gets played. And that's how the sausage is made. And so when you see a bill like this and it doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't mean that it's not an important bill. It could be laying the groundwork for something else. But considering that this is going at the same provision that Amendment 5 is looking to suspend for 5 years, it makes you ask some questions.
That's the one I think is the most interesting that you guys have brought up to me, is the toll roads. Because if everything else is the same, but you're adding toll roads to the equation, because you're basically saying they're not protecting the idea that you would not bring in toll roads. They're kind of opening the door for that. That makes a lot of sense to me because toll roads, boy, you can make a lot of money on toll roads.
Big money. I
And
think
tell you,
shield
it's big
names
money
have
games.
the dollar amount.
And again, they don't put these things into these amendments unless there's a reason for them to be in there. So there has to be, and I'm sure we'll get some talking point that explains this, but
Well, we're going to be, crazy. We're going to be crazy for that kind of.
When you've got something that's about Missouri Road and Transportation Fund protections and an income tax amendment, that's a real that's a real big stretch for me to think that there's not something else going on there.
I'd be curious to talk to Jan Farrar is big on the trans corridor project.
Let's get her on. I talked to her.
I'd be curious to see if she could connect this to the A5 to the corridor. I don't know if she can. We'll have to give her some time so she can do some research maybe, but she's really been aware of it because it goes right through, her area.
I'll reach out to her because
I'm curious. It might be interesting to see.
The toll road, when I saw the Shield Maidens put that out and then you guys said you'd looked into it as well, I get the feeling that might be what's going on here at the end of the day. And I'm not saying it's some people are disagreeing in the chat. I'm not so sure that they know this, but I'm thinking that this is thrown in there and it's just like a little nothing burger. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, this does open the door. Well, you can make a lot of money if you're a deficit shortfall and you start putting up toll roads on Highway 70 or Highway 4061. If you start doing that, or down to the Lake of the Ozarks, if you start putting in those or even to Jefferson City, right? You're talking about
big money,
a ton of money that can be gained.
Well, and then when I see them drop, I know he says the money's not a big deal, but when I see the amount of money to push the amendment, I'm thinking, some deals have been made already. Do you know what I'm saying? If you've got a $90 million deal on the table, what's 10 million?
Right.
To make sure it goes through, so you can make your 80 million.
Again, I don't know that this is why they put that in there, but I do know there is a reason this was put in the legislation.
Right.
We may not know now, but there's a reason.
You find out. Okay, we got to sell some books here real fast, Mike. Get that book up on your. Where's your book?
Where's it at, Mike?
What's that, Mike? You don't have one on your counter?
Isaiah got it. I don't know if I can pull it up.
I'm halfway through.
I just saw your new commercial, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
I'm pulling it up. Sorry.
Commercials are really good. By the way, as he's looking it up, always remember, like, share, comment, subscribe. Like, share, comment. It's the only way we get our message out. It's the only possible way we can do it, especially on X. I know people are listening on X. They're listening on Rumble. They're listening on Facebook. Spotify took us down, but you think it's a technical issue, huh, Isaiah?
Yeah, we're back up. It was a technical issue. Okay. It wasn't anything about.
I was already ready to start a fight with Spotify.
No, it had nothing to do with anything like that.
You've got a comment on Vert Manny. I don't know who that is, but I got to tell you, I've thought about that myself. I'm like, I just feel there's an overwhelming against A5, and I did pose to Dr. Frank. I'm like, what do citizens do if they feel like an amendment was voted in, but there was fraud?
This is my argument with the whole thing, right? Because you don't know. For example, Jake Jackson, who's politically astute, Jake's been around the game for a long time. He worked for Onder. He worked for Bill Eigel. He's politically astute. He kind of
just wrote a nice Substack article. Good job.
Exactly. Yeah. That's our man, Jake Jackson. And he believes that it's from his conversations that it's about 70-30 against Amendment 5. Mm-hmm. Then you have Isaiah, who's also politically astute, go in and talk to Bishop Davidson, who's the sponsor of this bill. And he's saying it's 80-20 in favor of Amendment 5. Now, you throw into the equation, you've got Kurt Barr out in St. Charles County, the largest Republican and conservative county in the entire state of Missouri. And he will violently push back against hand counting paper ballots. They're trying to diminish Jen. I'm listening to Dan and Drew this morning on my old radio station, and you've got Kurt Barr on there giving commercials about how secure the elections are in St. Charles County. And then you got Jen Olson, who says paper counting hand ballots, and the same thing. Now let's just take it a step further. Kurt Barr wins in the election that he runs. They're going to pass, or 70-30, win, say 55-45. Don't you have the question in your mind, were these fair elections? And if you're constantly having questions whether the elections are fair, isn't it incumbent upon the state of Missouri and all of these counties to just simply say, what is the best method to give confidence back in the elections? They're not going to do it. And it's like that Tom Estes guy said, it's never going to happen, period. Basically shut your pie holes about it. I think he might be right. I don't think they want to do anything about elections. And even Michael Burton was on here and he said, Rob, there's no evidence that the elections were stolen. And I said, that's neither here nor there, Michael, right? The Democrat that was on. And I like Michael. He might be listening today. I said, that's neither here nor there. You've already unraveled our confidence in the elections. Therefore, you can never have peace because every time somebody loses, they think the other side cheated.
Yeah. And so, we are never confident in the outcome. And that's very detrimental to us as a country.
Absolutely.
Couldn't agree more. I think if they fix that, then all of a sudden, all of these amendments and everything, you feel like you're in a real fight. You feel like, okay, if it's a political fight, then let's get it on. But if it's a rigged game, I don't want to get in the fight.
Well, right. And then, of course, you get voter apathy because, and so I just want to tell people, I know we're in a mess, but you still have to fight. You still have to get out there and vote. You still have to do the best you can, because if you just surrender now, you've lost. And I'm not giving up yet. And absolutely I get discouraged. I get discouraged too. And I just think, what in the world? Why? Why?
Well, the one thing I've learned through our time with Act for Missouri and me and Amy's struggles with all this, and the reason I wrote the book is until citizens realize what their civic duty truly is, because we don't teach that in schools anymore. People don't know. We went from a country that's like, put a challenge in front of us, we're going to go out and we're going to do whatever it takes to get it done, to a country that is now a country of spectators that watches TV and says, well, I want this guy, why won't he fix something? I had a lady come up to me the other night after our talk, and she was telling me about all the problems in her community. And she said, when are you guys going to be able to do something about that? And I was like, I'm
not my community.
Me and Amy, we're two people. We can't
gave up your whole lives to do it.
It's your community. Get your people together, and that's what the purpose of the book is. It's to remind people, first, what our responsibility are as citizens. Two, I try to bring up some of these issues that we need to work on. I don't address them all, but the third section of the book is all about things that everybody can do. And like I said, you don't have to do as much as we do. You don't have to do a lot. If everybody would just go to one public meeting a month.
Exactly.
I mean, it is sad in our country that we have school board meetings where nobody shows up. We have city council meetings where nobody shows up. County commission meetings. We should have people there at all these meetings. And if you just go and sit and then put a post up and tell your neighbors, I went last night to the school board meeting. This is what they're working on, blah, blah, blah. It may not be exciting, but you never know. And if you want to fight the data centers, the best way to do it is to be there at the very beginning when the county commissioners put these on the agendas that nobody's showing up on.
And I want to add to that. I want to add to that because I know a lot of us that are on here, that are on the thread. I mean, I recognize the names, all very engaged on social media. But now is the time to have that discussion with the neighbor, to have the discussion with somebody. I am ready to make a T-shirt with the back that says "Vote No" on A1, 2, 4, and 5. I'm ready to wear that sucker at Walmart, and someone's going to see that shirt. Some of the grassroots said, "Well, who's making signs?" And I'm like, you got to make the sign, buddy. It's you that makes the sign. It's you that gets out there and does it. You make the flyer and go put it out on the cars if you have to. No, you as an individual can argue against an amendment. You don't have to have permission from anybody. If you want to stand on the corner with a sign that says "Vote No" on 5, then go stand on the corner and say "Vote No" on 5. But this idea that, well, somebody's going to make the signs. Or you are the somebody. Go get your friends. Go get.
But don't you think, Amy, it's before I got into state and local politics, started paying attention to it, I didn't really even know anything was going on. Mm-hmm. But I find these things very interesting when I go to them. It might just be my personality, but I didn't know a lot about local politics. I started to go and watch the conversation start to take shape. Mm-hmm. I just thought, I didn't even know those things were being discussed. I did not know that those conversations were being had. And then as you start to get in the middle of it and you start to go, well, it kind of fosters your thought process to start thinking about, wait a minute, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in my own town that actually do affect my life that I don't even know how this even happened. This road's getting built here. I didn't know there was a conversation about building this road over here. This school's going. I didn't even know there's somebody's getting money, with the Josh Hawley fought for. I didn't know that it was even going on until it was like 2 years into it before somebody said, he's trying to get money for the nuclear waste that was put out in Gulf Springs or wherever it was at. I said, I didn't even know that was happening. right? I just was completely oblivious to everything that was going on all around me because I was watching Fox News and CNN, and that's what I thought the news was all about.
And we've been disengaged for so long that I think those that are in our elected seats and they run our government, they've just ignored, because we've been unengaged. They now have no desire to engage with us because where have we been? Where have you been? Where have I been? I mean, I'm the same way. It wasn't until COVID shut down business that I started going, what in the world is going on? Up until that point, I was just running my business, doing my thing.
Same with me.
I can say two things, I think, very confidently. One, if people do start going to just one meeting a month, they'll find that they're going to more than that many meetings. They will get more engaged. They'll find it more interesting than whatever they're doing on those evenings otherwise. And two, if we want to be a nation that just continues to be spectators and watch this movie play out, it's not going to end well.
Yeah. And what makes America great? What makes America great is the involvement
of the people.
Their government. That's what makes us different. Yeah. That's what makes us great. We've just lost the idea of it. And probably just because of the conditioning of our press, conditioning of the right versus left paradigm. The whole thing is just kind of got us into this cruise control where we think everything that happens around us is some kind of magic instead of guiding the process to make sure you get a better life and a better outcome for your family. That's the way I see it. All right. I got a guy coming on. You guys got to check this out. So I got a guy coming on the show at 11. that I grew up with. He had a sexual relationship as a junior in high school with a freshman. He was an adult at the time, I think 17, which was considered an adult in the mid to late 80s. And she was a minor. Father caught her. He was black. She was white. He didn't like that at all. So he filed charges. This guy's been carrying around the sexual predator label all the way back from the late 80s or mid to late 80s until now. Completely has messed up his life. He's got just the craziest story. He was in the professional baseball. He was running a gang that had 4,000 members from coast to coast. He's like this 21-year-old leader of this massive gang that was going on. He's got the craziest life story. And I had a front row seat from him. We were really, really good friends through our formative years, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. We played ball together, hung out together. I know him before all the craziness began. And he's got a documentary that he's trying to get off the ground. I think there's some production company that's putting it together for him. He's trying to raise a few $100 for it or something of that nature. But you guys will get a kick out of the story. I think it's the craziest. I said, Curtis, if you are not in for a movie, I don't know what it takes to get a movie script going on, but you've led one of the craziest lives of anybody I've ever known ever. And you'll hear about it here in just a bit. So anyway, just to give you a lead up for that. Amy, great to see you. Michael.
Good to see you guys.
One more time on the book. You got it. One more time on the book. Where do people find it? Number one.
They can go to keepingtherepublicbook.com and you can find it on Amazon. But I have the link straight to it from the website there.
How is it, Amy? You liking the book?
Yeah, I think people are going to find it. It's an easy read. There's lots of good, like single couple lines where you're like, okay, I can hold on to that. I can hold on to that. I think it really will help explain what our responsibilities are in a very easy to read, simple way.
This is the kind of stuff that should be in schools right here.
Yes. A young person could read this book.
I wrote it for that in mind, but also for people our age too, that have just never realized what is my responsibility. It's not, it's more than just showing up to vote every couple of years.
Yep. And I get a signed copy, right?
Yep. I should have my copies next week, and then you'll be the first one I send for you.
I'm gonna come pick it up from you.
When's the book signing? When are we hosting the book signing?
Book signing.
We'll have to get that scheduled as I can get enough books available to do it.
So. Can we do this right now while I got everybody on the horn here? I want to have a meeting where we talk about some things with the show, with People's Lobby Missouri, Act for Missouri. And I was going to do it on the 20th. I still want to do it on the 20th, but I said Isaiah couldn't be there. You guys couldn't be there on the 20th.
I'm at the Republican Central Committee meeting on the 20th.
Okay. Is there a time that week where you guys can do it? Will you guys look at your schedules? I'd like you to be there if you can. And Mike, I'd like you to sell some books when you're there, or get me some books and I'll sell them on your behalf. I think I got to have Isaiah there. Isaiah's become he's become too big. He's just too popular. He's too big. If I have
it's John's fault.
If I have a meeting and Isaiah's not there, I don't think anybody will show up. So I got to get Isaiah there. Isaiah, you look at that week too, will you? The week of the 20th, because I'll be in town that week, and I'd like to get advertisers, listeners of the show, people that are politically engaged in a room so that we can start working together. And that's the one thing I think we miss is those face-to-face, get to know people. Because once you know people and you shake their hand and you take the measure of them, all of a sudden they're personal to you and you want to help them. When they call you, you answer the phone. And I think we can move mountains one person at a time if we start to connect with one another. So that's why I want to do it. And I'd love to have you guys there.
We'd love to be there. I think you're right, Rob. You know, as I meet people, and I've had because people contact us through the website. Usually they're frustrated and they're like, I have to do something, but I don't know what to do.
Right.
I give them a call. We usually just talk a little bit, try to find out where they're at, how much they know, what their background is. And I can usually say, you know what, I think you'd be really good if you focused on this, or where, if I know what county they're in, I can also kind of tell them where their county's at or who to connect with in the county. And we just need a lot more of that, Don't be afraid to have those conversations because people know.
It ends up being very fun, very connected.
Yeah, people know something's wrong. They're frustrated and they want to talk.
Yeah.
You will feel better if you're actually taking action rather than just watching.
Act for Missouri. That's right.
Actformo.org. All right, you kids, you crazy kids. Go have a great weekend. Stay out of trouble. You too, Mike. You stay out of trouble if you can.
We'll try.
Partying. All right. Let somebody else drive if you guys start drinking. You know the deal.
Oh, yeah. We couldn't keep this all straight if we had a drink. This would be impossible.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Have a great day. I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right. Take care.
Thanks, Rob.
Bye.
You got it. Actformo.org. Great people, great patriots, very beneficial to the people of Missouri. They get the information out to you that you need to pay attention to, and they got that website is absolutely fantastic. I was rummaging through that the other day. They got so much information on there, Isaiah, that I had to really scour through to find information. I was like, God, they got everything you need to know right here in one fell swoop.
I like the so if you go through the website and you look at the amendments, they kind of have a little bit of information, and then if you want to go deeper, you can go deeper, and then you can download the full guide and things like that. And so I appreciate that about the website. It's like, how deep do you want to go? You know, you can kind of choose.
It's a one-stop shop to understand. Now, we know that we're coming from a certain angle, right? I think most of us that are listening to the show are, I wouldn't even say that we're Republican in thought process, but we're free thinkers, we're open-minded, and we want to get the job done for the state of Missouri so that we have just better lives in Missouri, right? Just you can control your environment if you decide to get involved. And I just think these guys do a fantastic job. And all the information, if you're a beginner and you're like, I just want to kind of understand how the government works in the state of Missouri, go to their website, actformo.org, and everything that you can think about all the way down to your elected House reps, everything is there for you in one spot to educate yourself on the politics and the environment in the state of Missouri. So I highly recommend actformo.org and his book, Keeping the Republic. If you go to Amazon and get it, if you should go there, there's a bunch of books called Keeping the Republic. Michael Compton is the author. The cover of the book looks great too. Isaiah did a really nice job with that. It looks to me. So anyway, that is the plug for Act for Missouri and Michael Compton's book. There it is. That's what it looks like. If you go to Amazon and pick it up, Keeping the Republic, a Citizen's Guide for the Next 250 Years. All right.
I was a little distracted. I'm trying to get our guest in. He's having issues joining. So
if he does, we'll put a picture up and call him. Let's get a little advertising in here. Where am I at? I didn't do Grace Halling, did I? I didn't.
Nope.
Let's do some Grace Halling right now. We need to talk trash, Isaiah. It's been too long since we talked trash. When you talk trash, if you're a trash talker, you got to talk about Grace. How about that? Trash talking. I like it. Trash talking with GraceHalling.com. GraceHalling.com. GraceHalling.com for all of the residential customers out there. If you have bulk pickups, trash pickups, recyclables, you name it, anything rubbish, anything trash, first call to make is GraceHalling.com. 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 If you're a commercial business, they have 2, 4, 6, and 8-yard dumpsters. You see Grace Halling trash trucks, dumpsters everywhere in St. Charles County. Why? Because they're great to do business with. Been around since 1998. Pride themselves on outstanding customer service. It is Gary Schneider. Everybody knows Gary Schneider in the area. Great people, great business. But for the grace of God, as he likes to say, I would not have such a thriving business, Rob. And he started this business way late in his life, Isaiah. So it goes to show you, don't give up. If you got a dream, make it happen. He started his business late, and he has done an amazing job. He's got an incredible business. GraceHalling.com, GraceHalling.com, GraceHalling.com. Anytime there's rubbish, anytime there's trash, GraceHalling.com. And then we got Mitch and Brian from Rocket, ROCKIT careers.com. Now, again, if you're listening from anywhere in the country, and maybe you're off work today, maybe that's why you're listening because you're not working, and you're like, I got to get a job here at some point. I'm starting to panic a little bit. Give these guys a call. They'll make magic happen for you. Rocket, ROCKIT careers.com. They will help you launch a new career. So if you hate your job, if you're out of work and you're starting to panic and you need to make some money, but you want to do something different because whatever field you're in you don't like, or maybe you are just out of work and you want to get a job in the field you're in now, check these guys out. I promise you'll love them. Rocketcareers.com, ROCKIT careers.com. Been friends of mine for a long time. I know what I'm talking about here. If you are small to medium sized business, again, on the other side, if you're an employer, use these guys. Give them a call. If human resources doesn't do the job, or it's just too expensive and you don't have a human resources department, but you got to find good talent for your business, they have a network from coast to coast. This just isn't Missouri. This is anywhere in the country. Anywhere in the country. Rocketcareers.com, ROCKIT careers.com, 636-778-2419, 636-778-2419. And now we have ECS Roofing. By the way, when we did at EXP Realty, I think she's put 6 homes on the market, she said, in the last 2 weeks.
Wow.
How about that? Debbie Gina's kicking it.
That's incredible.
It's amazing. I was very excited to hear that from her. ECS Roofing, he's starting to put pictures up all over. He's teamed up with our old guy, Kevin Pittman. Kevin Pittman is the greatest welder in Missouri, probably one of the best welders in the country. And he's now, I see these guys sharing their information back and forth. It's working out perfectly. The people that are involved in what we're doing, just Isaiah, how about this? Let me explain it to you this way. Do you have people in your life that root for everything that you do, and no matter what it is, they love Isaiah? So whatever you're into, they're rooting for the success of Isaiah.
Oh, yeah.
And do you have people that in your life that you've thought you were friends or thought you were acquaintances with them and thought they'd be rooting for you, but as you start to have success, it feels like they're kind of rooting against you? I don't know if it's jealousy. I don't know what it is. I want to eliminate all those people from my life. They can go on about their business. I want people that are rooting for our success. I want people that are rooting for your success. And that is why we try to tie everybody together. We want to root for everybody's success. I'm rooting for everybody, not just me. I'm rooting for Isaiah. I'm rooting for Eck for Missouri. I'm rooting for the Shield Maidens. I'm rooting for all the people that are involved in the political arena, so long as they are not devilish, Isaiah. We root for one another. We support one another. We create a family, and we create business and political connections that take us to the next level. That is the ultimate goal. ECS Roofing and Exteriors, our good friend Larry Evans, he's doing it with Kevin Pittman. There you go, right there on the screen. Been in business for over 30 years. Roofing, siding, decks, gutters, garage doors. If it's time for a new roof, it is ECS Roofing and Exteriors. Been in the business for 30 years. Conscientious. Going to give you a great price. Going to do great work. A part of the family. ECS Roofing and Exteriors. Again, 30 years in the business. The big benefit to him is he knows the insurance game as well. He's a licensed independent insurance adjuster. So when he tells you the insurance companies are going to help replace your roof, he knows what he's talking about. He's not one of these charlatans that knock on your door, tell you the insurance companies are going to work with you. They have no idea. It is just a ploy to get you into their system. He said, Rob, that's a big problem with the roofing business. Makes us all look bad. I don't do that. When I tell you the insurance companies are going to do something for you, I know what I'm talking about. ECS Roofing and Exteriors. You can reach them at 314-486-3567, 314-486-3567. ECS Roofing and Exteriors. Check them out on Facebook if you want to see their work. Can I get one more in? Did we have any luck with my buddy?
Nope. You'll have to give him a call. We can show his. I think what we can do is we can show his trailer before you give him a call. We'll play that. You can give him a call, get him on, and then we'll transition into the conversation.
Okay, I'm telling him I will call you shortly.
I told him.
Okay. Let's do slaphappyhemp.com and our good friend John Grady. He's been sending me a lot of information lately. I tell you what, John Grady is fully involved in the political system. He's running for House Rep out there in Rosebud, Missouri.
How about his viral video?
I know. He's doing really good. Was that the 2A one?
Yeah, the Second Amendment one.
He's actually really good at that. I got to get better at doing those things. He's better than I am at it. You can reach slaphappyhemp.com. Now, again, the business is on Highway 50 in Rosebud. This is for people that use hemp products. Their business is going away as it sits right now. They're going to reconstitute themselves with another business, but right now they're hemp business because of the new laws in the state of Missouri. The state of Missouri just took his business out of play. He's not happy about it. He says, Rob, if people use hemp products, they're going to get a great deal from us because as of November, our business goes away. So if you want a great deal on hemp products and you want to support the show, slaphappyhemp.com, 636-388-8771, 388-8771. I think we're going to do show from his place.
10% discount if you mention the Robb Carter Show.
There you go.
10%
discount.
Yeah, he said that. He said that. Yeah, he said if you mention the Robb Carter Show, he's going to give you a 10% discount out there.
There you go. Plus the discounts that he's already given, because I think he's doing primarily a clearance on all the material that he has to get rid of. All right, I'll leave the rest for later. Let me call Isaiah. Let me find a clip that I want to play.
No worries. I'm going to play his trailer.
Okay, let's do this. So here we go. We'll set this up. So what we're going to do now is we're going to play now. Let me give you my background on Curtis. Okay. So Curtis and I started, this is really, if this is outside of it's got politics involved in it, but really why I want to have Curtis on the air is Curtis is hell-bent on getting his story out. He wants to get his story out because it is a crazy story. It should be on the big screens. If anybody understood how to make a great movie, you should pay attention to the Curtis Wilson story. He goes by the name Wolf, Isaiah. He's got 2 different colored eyes.
He's
a big, muscular, strong guy. We played baseball together growing up, spent the night at his house growing up. Isaiah, we found out the first night that I stayed at his house. If you can remember, this was how different the race relations were back in those days. I remember wanting to spend the night at his house. We played sports together. We were, back in those days, we played baseball, basketball, football, soccer, tennis, whatever the sport was, we played it. And he was one of those guys, great athlete. So I gravitated to him because we were into sports, right? So it was his birthday, and he wanted me to spend the night at his house. I remember asking my mom if I could spend the night at Curtis's house. And I think, I don't know who was there. I think it was my aunt. And because he was black and I was white, this was 1983, I believe was the year. My aunt, I think it was my aunt, a vague memory of it, asked whether my mom was going to let me stay the night at his house or not because he was black, Isaiah. And my mom didn't see race at all. My mom goes, well, of course I'm going to, why wouldn't I? Yeah. And that was where the conversation ended. But I just remember that is how different society was back in 1983. My own family, who's not racist at all, were asking whether it was appropriate for me to stay the night at a 13-year-old black kid's house in 1983. And the reason we were able to go find it is because in that year, or the night that I stayed at his house was the night the New York Islanders won the Stanley Cup against the Vancouver Canucks. And I remembered being at his house watching that. So we went and looked up the date and were able to find the exact date that I spent the night at his house. Isn't that crazy how that all works? So anyway, I want to tell his story. I want to raise some money for his documentary that he's going to put out. He's got a production company that's working with him. And I think people will be fascinated by his story. It's pretty crazy. So what you're going to see now is Curtis and his documentary. So he has clips of the documentary. I've been involved in these meetings with him. I've been down in downtown St. Louis where he's trying to get some support for what he's trying to get done. So I know this to be real. I know him to be very genuine what he's trying to accomplish. This is Curtis Wilson, and I think the story is called Wolf, right? Wolf was his nickname. He's got a bat named after him called the Wolf Bat in softball, the whole thing. But here is the beginning of, or just clips of his documentary, what it's going to look like, and then I'll get him on the phone.
You wanna ride back to 1969. May 17th was the day that I arrived. Some stories are told after a man is gone. This is not one of them. This is the story of Curtis "Wolf" Wilson. By the early 90s, Wolf's name carried weight across the city. He rose through the ranks of the gangster disciples, eventually leading thousands. His presence alone could shift the energy of a room, and his reputation moved faster than his face. In that world, power meant protection, but it also meant responsibility.
I'm the same guy that hurt a lot of people. I'm the same guy that led over 4,000 disciples from 1989 to 1994.
Growing up, Wolf never planned on being the leader of the gangster disciples. He was on his way to play in the major leagues of baseball. Scouts were already making their moves. Wolf was an amazing ball player all throughout high school, putting up stats others could only dream of.
Major League was interested. I mean, when he was in high school, they was coming to see him. They was coming to the house. Even when he went to the penitentiary, Oakland A's came to the penitentiary to see him. So he wasn't no plaything in the sports world. You know, he most definitely was a monster there. He was a beast there, and he still is.
But sometimes life itself throws a curveball. In the streets of North County, St. Louis, power meant survival. Respect was earned through reputation, loyalty, and fear.
At this particular time, Wolf had a group of disciples called Insane Gangster Disciples, which we was all on the same umbrella. And something happened over there with them brothers, and some guys came out there and let off a few shots, whether it was in the air or whatever it may be. But we was called to come out there. This is me and Mines, this is me and Black Tie. And them fools pulled right up beside them And they strapped up. All they had to do was just say, let me try this new gun out and shoot them. Like I said, man, we've been blessed. And they was in the car right up on, like, driving slow beside him, like, is that him? We don't know because he got a black hoodie on, but they driving. And I guess drive like, man, that ain't nobody. And they shot up towards us, and we fired their ass up. Yeah, we somebody.
It added to the legacy about who Seawolf was. It made me more of a beast. It made me feel like I was immortal.
Every decision carried consequences, but every life eventually reaches a crossroads. Eventually, one life has to die so the other can live.
Because still some brothers today can admit they still live by the documentation that you provide. I'm one of them. Proper preparation prevents poor performance, my brother.
So I had a long conversation with the devil, so I'm just trying to save somebody. Can't live in two different lives in one body, but I was trying to maintain it and hold it the best way I could. I'm still going back and forth, you know, being a gangster and being a ball player because I was still in the streets.
Long before the streets knew his name, Curtis Wilson was an elite athlete with professional baseball dreams. Wolf went on to become a 4-time Hall of Famer, becoming a St. Louis superstar playing alongside another St. Louis superstar. Their games packed in thousands of spectators. Wolf was so good he ended up getting his own custom bat branded with his own name that you can still purchase to this day.
So this is where I played semi-pro baseball. The Florida Marlins organization just started.
A simple swing of a bat introduced him to a new world.
They thought I'd been playing softball all my life, but that was my first time picking up a softball bat.
What started as curiosity quickly turned into dominance.
My name just ran rapidly. Who is Wolf? Wolf, 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 Wolf.
Curtis Wolf Wilson would go on to become a Hall of Fame softball player.
Man, he's a phenomenal player. I told him he's wasting his time in St. Louis.
Today, he stands in the same city where his story began.
What he's done, where he's came from, and the way he's working with the kids just adds value to our program and adds value to the kids. The kids really like him and what they learned from him out there is great. With his knowledge of softball, it just helps out.
Life looks completely different for Wolf now, from being the governor of the whole Missouri chapter of Gangster Disciples, in charge of over 4,000 gang members, then going on to become a professional Hall of Fame ball player, to a motivational speaker spending all of his time pouring back into his community and working every day to teach the youth there's a better way. After all the lessons he has learned, Wolf has become a man who understands the cost of the life he once lived. His message is simple.
But I'm trying to save you before you have to change going through prison life. Change before all that, so you don't have to see that life.
Because if one man can walk away from that world and build something better,
I'm living proof that if I can make it, anybody can make it. That's the God-honest truth. If I can make it, anybody can make it.
Let me take you on a ride back to 1969. May 17th was the day that I arrived.
What's going on, my friend? How are you?
How you doing? How you doing? Can you hear me, Rob?
I can hear you great. You're good.
Okay. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I want to walk through the story with everybody. You know, that we normally talk in politics. And I said, you know what? It's Friday. It's the last hour or so of the show. I said, I want to have this conversation with you because we have been dealing with your situation for quite some time. People who listen to the radio or listen to me on the radio will remember we had you on a couple of times. I've told a story about kind of what you went through, but I want to kind of personalize this with everybody just a little bit. You and I became friends. I think, were we in 6th grade? Does that sound about right? When you and I became friends, it sounded like 81 maybe?
Yeah. Yeah, like 12 or 13. You were like 10 or 11, 12 or 13, right in that area.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I always say to people, you know, you know people when you grow up with them, right? You and I know each other. I know who you are. I know I stayed the night at your home. We played sports together. Right. We hung on the streets together. We went to school together. We know each other, right? I never knew. Right. So I know you. I don't know where you went when you got into the gangster world and that whole thing, but I know Curtis Wilson. I know what kind of person you are. I knew you were very loyal to me. I was a little tiny white kid that liked to shoot my mouth off, and I would like to play sports. And that is right. And you remember everybody wanted to kick my ass and everything, you know, because I was a little trash talker kind of guy. And I had friends of mine that you were one of them. My buddy Derek, there were several that, you know, you didn't mess with Rob too terribly much because I had very athletic, big friends, and you were one of them. Very loyal to me. We were good friends growing up. And then all of a sudden, but one of the things that kind of I think kind of split us a little bit, and I don't think it was anything that because this event happened. I just think it was the timing of it all. You got into a fight at school at Rittner High School. What year was that? 86, 87?
No, that was 84.
No, it wasn't 84 because we were at Rittner. Was it well, it could have been 85. Was
Yeah,
it?
it was a freshman, 84. Yeah.
Okay, so that
I was
was
a freshman.
and I was friends with both of the guys that got involved in it. The other guy that you got into fight with was not a guy he was a very sinister character, I know. And I played baseball with him. He came after you
Yeah.
because you guys, it was racial tensions back in those days as I remember it. And
Of course.
you guys were fighting over a girl and you ended
Well,
up,
no, he was fighting over a girl, not me.
right. Well, he was fighting over a girl. Exactly. You guys got into a scuffle. He ended up getting, I don't want to get into the whole story because it's irrelevant, but you guys got into it. Seems to me not long after that is when I moved away. I went to a different high school and you did too. Didn't you move to another high school right after that? And that's kind of where we broke up. Didn't see you much after that. I went to Pattonville. You went to Berkeley. So we were both at Rittner. I go to Pattonville after that. You go to Berkeley. Rittner was getting a little tough back at that time frame, as I remember. You go to Berkeley. And I didn't see you again until we were playing football. I was like 30 years old. I think we were playing football. I had not seen you since I was 16 years old at that point. I hadn't seen you one time.
Yeah.
And you were playing quarterback for the team that we were playing football against. And I remember I didn't know it was you. I had no idea it was you. And you were just absolutely incredible. I mean, nobody could tackle you. You were playing quarterback. You were just ripping us to shreds. And my buddy Derek, who you remember, Derek, that we grew up with, he said, that's Curtis. He said, that's Curtis Wilson playing quarterback, I think. I said, Curtis Wilson? I go, for real? And then, I got back on the field and I didn't say anything to you that I recognized you. And we start playing again. And when the game was over, we're going through the lines, where we're shaking hands.
Yeah.
And I laid a shoulder into you just to catch your attention. I laid a shoulder into, and you backed up and looked at me and you go, Robb Carter? And I said, we hadn't seen each other for such a long time. But we grew up at a time where there were racial tensions that were going on. Completely different era. People don't really understand it. You got caught up in the situation where they basically labeled you a sexual predator because of an affair that you had when you were a junior and this other girl was a freshman or around that age frame. And that has carried throughout your entire life. Has there been, first of all, before we get into the other things, has there been any resolution to that? Because I try to get everybody involved to say, wait a minute, is this fair? My mother and father, under this scenario, my father would be in prison. He heard your story on the show and he goes, I'd be in jail if that were the case, or they'd have done something to me because I met your mom when she was, I think he was 18, she was 14, different era. Is there anything happened with that? Have you had any resolution? Have they taken that tag off of you?
I'm glad you brought that up. So I go back to court August 17th in St. Charles, Missouri. For the ones that don't know the story, I was 16 years old and I met my 13-year-old girlfriend at the time. And when I turned 17, a month after I turned 17, we got caught having sex with her dad, who was part of a group called the White Knights. They're like a clan in St. Charles back at that time in the 80s. And of course, he was more embarrassed that his daughter was dating a black kid, and so they pushed the envelope and pushed the situation more because of his ties and who he knew or who he was around. So basically, I was put on 5 years probation back in 1986, and this is 40 years ago. I've been labeled as a sex offender for 40 years, but regardless of the stigma that I had attached to my head, I was still being very successful, and I've dated hundreds of women, so there was no issue about me being around.
You're not into kids,
right? That's what I'm saying. But so it's like, I was a kid myself when that happened,
right?
So it ain't like I was 40 years old and the girl was 12 or something. No, that's we got guys that deserve to be up under the gutter for all that. But get to what I was trying to get at real quick is the fact that if you even pee in the park and you can't make it to the Johnny on the spot, you get caught peeing in the park, you consider a sex offender.
Right.
So I go to court August 17th. I was listed as a tier 3, which is hard to get off a tier 3. But I'll be listed as a tier 2, and that gives me a better chance of getting off the sex offender list because the Senate Bill 693 just passed, and I got to be a tier 2 to get off registry. So I just when I go to court next month, I'll be a tier 2, then I'll be getting off registry.
Gotcha. Okay, now tell me about how you got into running this gang, because when you were telling me that story the first time, I just did not see you in that light. I never saw you in a light. I didn't. I'm like, Curtis Wilson was involved in a gang. It just did not fit your personality as I remember you as a young person. How did this happen for you?
Well, my mom was a single parent, and I got a younger brother. He's 5 years younger than me. So at the time, my brother was 12 years old, and we moved in a gang-infested area called a disciple area called Castle Point, out here in North County, Missouri. And my brother, he was more of an outgoing type of person at 12 years old. So, but I was still in baseball. I was, scouts was watching me, and I'm trying to, do what I can to get my family out that neighborhood, hoping that I get not just a scholarship, but somebody to pick me up out of high school. So one day, my brother went to a little house party, a 12-year-old kid with a few of his friends. They go to the house party, and this guy got into it with my brother. So my brother beat the little guy up. So the guy ran outside and got his big brothers, who were like 18, 19 years old, and they pounded and beat my brother down. My brother had 2 broken shoulders, a busted nose. I mean, he was a kid. He's like maybe 90 pounds soaking wet back then. So that brought me into like, who did this to my brother? I wasn't there to protect my brother. Of course, that's probably the first time I ever cried, just to see my brother, helplessly beaten up like that by some grown, young men. So that was the invitation of going to that life, because my hand was forced. And so, like I said, a lot of guys that's in the disciples, I kind of saw those guys, and they seen me, and they heard about what I did, per se, revenging my brother's beat down. And, I never drank, I never smoked in my life, so I'm always in good shape. And I'm pretty good with my hands, because they thought I used to box. I said, no, I just knew how to, because my dad was a boxer. So the disciples, a lot of those guys were athletic themselves. So that was the connection right then and there. I hung out with those guys. We played basketball. We played sports. So that was the connection. So one night, this guy that we talked about this though, Rob, the guy that Chris Williams, he went to Haken, he went to Rittner with us. He's a tall guy, and I haven't seen him in like 30 years since that situation. So he came in the neighborhood at the Velvet Ice Cream, and I seen him. We were never friends, but we never was enemies either in school. We just really never hung out like that. So for some reason, he was just talking smack to me. I don't know what that was about. So me and the guy that I was hanging out with, named Marvin Burrow, who was a disciple, we jumped him, we beat him up, and that was during the daytime. So that night, I'm hanging on a street called Royal Drive in Castle Point. And there's about maybe 40 disciples out there. Everybody's hanging out. They're probably shooting dice, drinking beer, talking to girls. Everybody's hanging out on the corner. And I'm just there, more just looking at the girls, that I don't smoke and drink. So all of a sudden, 4 carloads pulled up in front of us. And it was 3 carloads of guys, and the last car was all women. So that caught my attention. So I'm like, who are these girls? But when the guy got out the car, it was Chris. He got out the car with all these other disciples. So I was like, what the hell? So I asked Marvin, I said, Marvin, is Chris a disciple? He said, no, if he was, we wouldn't have jumped him. So basically, he wanted to fight me one-on-one in front of everybody. And the guy that was running the disciples, his name was Andre, and him and I were pretty close. He said, did you want to fight? I'm saying, I'll fight him one-on-one, because, I wasn't scared, but at the same time, I wasn't trying to cause no issues with nobody else. So we fought one-on-one. I beat him over my hands pretty good. So somebody threw Chris a pole. And since I played baseball, I had, we were playing baseball at the time, corkball. Somebody threw my corkball bat to me. So I started twirling it, like a baton, and like I'm doing karate, and I cracked him up pretty bad. When there was blood all over my shirt, and none of it was my blood. So that was the introduction to that world when they asked me, did I want to join? I looked at them as brothers. All those guys was like, because I never had a big brother. And those guys, I looked at them as brothers. So that was the introduction to me becoming a disciple.
It's so funny as you talk about it, because I think when people hear this, that's the environment we were raised in. And I don't think people, even my kids, they don't understand that, Bill's on here, Billy, I don't want to say Bill's name because he might not want me to say his last name, but Bill, we know a Bill that went to school with us. He's listening. Yeah. And, we fought. It wasn't that crazy. I mean, I wasn't a big fighter necessarily, but fighting was all around you. People fought at school. They got beat up. It was just a constant, you were constantly fending somebody off. And especially, being a black kid in it was a relatively white school, Rittner, back in the 80s. When it was probably 70-30, probably white to black. There was when they started
70-30. Yeah, they were busting in the black kids from the city and stuff. So like 70-30.
Yeah, I thought it was about 70-30. That's the way I looked at it. And then, you had the shooting at Rittner High School. That kind of changed my parents. Like, wait a minute, you got to get, this is now we're getting crazy. but it was a completely different environment. Violence was something that was not, we didn't freak out about violence. We didn't freak out about getting into fights. It was not unusual for somebody to get beat up right in front of you. It was kind of the nature of the game in North County in the 80s, especially the black and white version. Wouldn't you agree with that, Curtis? There seemed to be racial tension amongst just a handful of white kids, but they were always causing trouble. And then you had the racial back and forth all the time in the mid 80s. It's just was the nature of the game.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely back, like I said, especially in the early '80s, in the mid '80s, it was definitely a lot of racism, especially, you know, Carrie's father, the girl that was dating, he was so racist that he on his radio station, I don't know how he did it, but he never got black faces on his radio station.
Yeah, you've told me that story, and then so you're.
Yeah, I'm like, how the hell you do that?
and you run the. It's called the Gangster Disciples, 4,000 members of this gang, and you were involved with them for what, 4 or 5 years?
I was involved. I was an active member from 1987 to 1994.
Wow, that's a long time.
Yeah. Then I was an enforcer at the time. Then I went to prison. I came back as the leader of North County, Missouri, and then a big takeover came into place in '93. And I was granted and blessed as the head disciple, which was called governor of the whole state of Missouri, which was 4,000 members. I was there for a whole 4 years. Then I just said, you know, I got tired of going to funerals. I got tired of people shooting at me, even though I had personal bodyguards. As a 22-year-old young man, you have all this power with the tip of your finger, you know, but you got all these responsibilities. You got all these people that's looking up to you. And at the same time, your worst enemies is your own kind because of jealousy and envy of leadership. So what made me get out, what made me retire from it, I'm going to say, not say just get out, but what made me retire from it was that even though I got shot in the head, even though I had my war wounds and I did my dirt, I had a dream one night and it was just a real black, dark cloud, like just pinning me down from my shoulders. And I couldn't wake up from it. And it was just something that just came from nowhere. I mean, I don't fear death, but I feared what just happened to me in my sleep. And that just woke me up and said, you know what? I think that's God telling me, you know, Curtis, I'm giving you a pass. So I'm telling you, I'm trying to give you a sign. It's time to do something else with your life. Because only 2 retirements in gang life is prison and death. And I did one of them and I was almost in the other one. And if I was in the other one, you and I would be having this conversation right now. So I've been blessed, and that's when I got out the gangs in 1994 and retired and that's when I got drafted by the Florida Marlins because nobody knew back then that I was also a baseball player. I kept that so separate, so secretive. I don't know why I did it, but I just did because that's the way I was living my life. Mm-hmm. And that's why I tell people I was living in 2 different lives in one body. And I just got tired of it. And when I started playing for the Marlins, and then I got drafted, I got hurt, then I started playing for the Oakland A's AA team, and I tore my rotator cuff. It's like, you know what? Okay, let me take a year off, let me heal. But in baseball, you know as well as I do, it's more politics when they rather take a 17, 18-year-old kid than a 22 or 23-year-old kid in the minors.
Exactly.
Any day.
Yep.
So, but I was at the right age, which I didn't know there was no such thing as professional softball, men's slow pitch softball. And I'm walking the park in Ferguson with my girlfriend at the time, and I see these guys hitting a softball. They're doing their thing, but I'm looking at it as a girl sport. I'm like, man, look at them guys swinging that little girl sport. Yeah, I mean, I'm just being honest. So the guys, they looked at me because I was in nice built shape.
Yep.
And they said, well, you look like you know how to play ball. I said, yeah, I know. What's up? He said, well, come take a few swings. I'm like, man, I'm not going to do all that. So the girl I was with, she said, you're not doing anything else? That this, I'm like, well, okay. So I swung a few times, hit the ball pretty far. So what caught my attention about softball was this. A guy named Tim Shaw, real nice guy, and may he rest in peace. He said, you can make money playing softball. I'm like, what? You can make money playing softball. There ain't nobody paying nobody. And he said, yeah. So the following week, I went to Peabody, Missouri to go play softball. I made $100 just for the first time playing on the weekend. I'm like, what? So as I got better and better over the years, I started playing majors. I was the only black ball player in the majors in 2012, a team called Laser Division. And since you're in Florida, that's softball mecca. everybody knows Laser Vision. Everybody knows Brett Helmer and Brian Whitman. I used to play with all those guys. And I was the number 8 hitter in the country that year, and I won me my first world title. And, of course, making great money. Guys making thousands of dollars a weekend. And, to be the only black ball player, I can actually understand, well, a little bit how Jackie Robinson went through, but it was like maybe 20 times worse back then. But I can still feel the tension of racism, and I know that they can get rid of me anytime, but I knew I was representing a lot of people that look like me to be successful, man, and that would push me to motivate me to be twice as good as anybody else.
So. And how long did you play softball?
30 years.
Amazing.
30 years. I just retired 3 years ago.
When you played with Nelly, what was he like? Did you guys become friendly?
Me and Nelly, we were friends before all this. Before he became famous, we were friends. I used to date one of his sisters, and Nelly is a hell of a ball player. He's an athlete, of course, and he's a good person. So, when I played with Nelly in 2005, we played in one of the biggest crowds ever. There's over 3,000 people watching us play against a team in Alabama at the Black Worlds called Social Depth, Jermaine Dupree's team. And they're, it was a big thing. Like I tell anybody, if you can play in the black circuit or you can play in the majors, you can play anywhere because it's more mental than the physical part.
Huh.
But Nelly's a great ball player. He's a good dude.
What position? He looks like a second baseman to me.
Who, Nelly?
Yeah.
Nelly went from shortstop to the outfield. They took him off shortstop because he didn't want that ball hit him in the mouth. And that's his money maker, And you take a bad bounce, it's a wrap.
He wanted no bad hops. He wanted no bad hops.
Right. So they put him in the outfield, and he did just as good out there. So yeah.
Did you ever remember the team that you and I played on? Because you and I played baseball together. I think for a year, maybe two.
We played on a team called the Woodson Terrace Tigers.
Tigers. I just don't remember that name.
Yeah, if I find that picture, we took that team picture. You're like sitting in the front row in the Indian stands. I'm standing in the back. You're like, you maybe 75 pounds soaking wet. but you was a hell of a hitter. You were very smart. I remember you batted like 760 something. I still remember that because you was one of the top hitters on our team. So just to see that, you were always good to me. Your mom was always nice to me. We didn't see, you and I didn't see racism. We just saw good people that we hung around with people that played sports as kids.
Yep. It's exactly the way it was. We just wanted to play sports and have a good time. It is funny how times have changed over the years. I just think back to those days and we didn't see it at all. I don't think any of our friends cared about it at all, but it was always there. You just kind of knew that there was some little racial tension. It was always just a handful of kids, right? It wasn't like the whole school was racist. You'd have, just a handful of kids that if you dated a white girl, they wanted to fight you. Right. It was all based around race back in those days, but it was crazy. What's my buddy Bill's got to say here?
But I feel like the only time that we all came together was either sports or breakdancing. So
that's right. Bill said that yesterday when I mentioned your name. He was in the chat. He said he goes in a hell of a breakdancer back in those days as well. Right. So we played. So what did we play? We played baseball together. I know I played soccer back then. You were actually a fairly decent soccer player. Wasn't your sport necessarily. Did you?
I was goalie.
Did we play? You were a goalie. That's right. Did we play basketball together at all?
Yes, in junior high school.
Junior high school basketball. All right.
Yeah.
Boy, those were the good old days. So you're putting this documentary together. Tell me a little bit about this. I went down with you. I saw you put a meeting together. We went down.
Yes, you were. That's right.
Yep. We went down near the Science Center, and you had a lot of, I would say, people in the community that want to help you. I think what you're doing is trying to explain to young people your experience in life, which I think is vast. I keep saying, I tell people the story. I said, listen, this is a guy that grew up at a time when there were racial tensions in North County. He was a hell of an athlete, very popular kid. You were a very popular person. I said, we split up. He starts to run this gang as a young person. He goes to prison. How long was your brother in prison?
My younger brother's in prison for 25 and a half years.
Brother's in prison for 25 and a half years. I know your mom. She was wonderful. I did not know your dad, so I'm assuming he was not around at some point in life. Very similar situation to a lot of kids back in those days. Your mom was trying to raise you in an environment where we were all a little bit wild and there was a lot of violence going on around us, and it was just the name of the game. So you go into that, then you leave it. And how did you leave it, by the way? I was going to ask you, how did you retire from not from softball, but from the gangs? Because as I understand it, you don't really have the option to retire. You're in, and that's the end of it. How did you break free from it without getting yourself in trouble?
Right. So I was definitely blessed of the situation because my rank as governor, there's no such thing as getting out unless you got to go to a place called House of Pain, which all the violations and sometimes death sentence happen. So what happened with me was when I left to go play ball in 1994, and I played, in the minors, and then when I started playing professional softball, my past caught up with me in 1998 in Chicago, which where the Gangsta Disciples are formed or was built at back in the 60s. So word got out that I was in Chicago playing ball at Washington Park with a team called Class Act out of St. Louis. None of my teammates knew about my past because I buried it. They just knew me as a big dude with light eyes that hit the softball. So, but the Disciples saw me, and we got a thing called BOSS, B-O-S or B-O-S-S. BOS means brothers of struggle. BOSS means brothers of success. So it was a guy there his name was Eyes. He got eyes like me, and he's a killer. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He was a killer, and he was there when I was blessed as the governor. So him and about 15 other guys walked up to me. We had my team had a rain delay break. And so, my team is, white and black guys. And so they saw these guys walk up to me. My team is like, what's going on? So I just kind of so those guys don't worry about it. Let me go talk to these guys. And I'm like this, if they're going to kill me or, do what they got to do, then it was going to happen. Because like I tell anybody, nobody's bigger than the mob, as we say. Mm-hmm. So we shook hands, we greeted each other. But I know all the signs and symbols and hand signals. So I'm just I'm very alert on what's about to happen. And I'm just ready to go. Whatever's happen. So
did you think they were going to take you out? What was your gut feeling at that moment in time? Did you think you were going to get taken out?
Yeah, I thought I was dead. I mean, because when I left the Disciples, it's not like I got permission to leave. I just left.
Right.
And just close that life around, just close it, period. And when people say, people's past catch up with them, it does. One way or the other, it does. So when they came up to me and I was like, damn, you're a hell of a ball player. So I'm trying to get, we're talking. I know we're trying to break the ice, but at the same time, these guys are killers and they're gangsters. They do what they do. So what broke the ice that would kind of ease the pressure a little bit is when Eyes looked at me and said, man, you're a hell of a ball player, and we want you to be boss. He emphasized the word S, which means brother of success. He said, just remember where you come from. Just be successful in what you do, but just know where you come from. And that gave me my path to live my life without being an active member anymore.
What's that feeling like when that's off the back? Because you got to feel like you're almost getting chased by the
mafia.
My
God. I mean, you don't show fear in the public eye, man, but I was definitely scared. I was definitely, this is going to be my last day on earth. I was thinking about a whole lot of things when I saw all these guys. But when they gave me my pass to say, we want to be successful, that's what it's all about. Whatever you do, just know where you come from, but you can still be successful in life, whatever you put your mind to. And that's what I'm doing now is being, because I own my own security company. I give back to the community. Guys that can't find jobs that's been in prison, I give those guys jobs. I got 32 guys that work for me, and I got 9 different contracts when it comes to security. And just giving back. And when these kids, when I do my seminars, just like when you heard me speak for the first time at the seminar in front of all these adults, it's all about when somebody said, well, you don't look like you've been through anything. That's the beauty of it. That is the beauty of it. If I don't look like I've been through anything, that's what it's all about. If I can change, everybody can change, because when you feel like you can't go nowhere and you and your surrounding your 4 walls, you feel like you're drowning inside. No, man. You got to get yourself out together. Don't lie to yourself. That's the biggest thing. Do not lie to yourself. I can tell you anything. I tell everybody anything, but deep inside, when I'm by myself, I know the real truth. And I don't want to do that. I want to leave something behind, a legacy. And this documentary that we've been working on for the last 3 years is very important to me. And the movie comes out, is all these things are about to happen, but money, it takes money, of course. And the guy who told me I should tell my story, and I think and you know Mr. Boyd. He's my old parole officer.
Yeah. Yep.
He told people I should tell my story. My ex parole officer told me that, and we're friends since like 25 years now. We've been friends.
Yeah, that's what. To be honest with you, Curtis, I'll just tell you a story. Really funny. I know you. I do. I always think when you meet somebody when they're 10, 11, 12 years old, and you know their families, and you watch them grow up, and you play ball together, and you go through the struggle together of growing up in a crazy time. You kind of know who that person is. Now, did I do crazy things when I was in my teens and 20? Yep, I did. Yeah, I always say if they had the internet and they had phones that got every move that I made when I was that age, you could paint me out to be the devil. I mean, you could. I was chasing girls around just like you. We talked about it many times. But I look at it now and I think what makes your story interesting was your parole officer when I met him and I was watching his communication back and forth with you. This guy is to keep you on the straight and narrow, and I could see there was a friendship there. And I'm like, okay, now I can trust Curtis because I didn't know where you were going, right? I just didn't. I hadn't seen you in years. I didn't know what was really happening, other than I like you as a person. But then when I saw the way the parole officer and the people in the community were reacting to you, I thought, okay, well, Curtis is looking to get something accomplished here. He's looking to be a good person. He's looking to help young people. He's looking to tell his story. It's a cautionary tale. Don't take this road, right? There's a better road for you. And I want to help. I want to see you realize that dream. Just as a childhood friend, I'd like to see this happen for you. What is the next step to get this documentary built? You said you don't need a lot of money. It's you're almost there. What kind of money are we talking? And how would people get it to you? How would people even get you if they want to donate to the cause? Because you're talking about, I think this could end up being a feature film. I've looked at what you guys are trying to accomplish here, and your story is phenomenal. I mean, you could put a story together that would blow people's minds. They don't even know half of what we went through, right? Especially what you went through. They have no idea. So how would they do it? Is there an email, or is there if somebody want to reach out and say, you know what, Curtis, I want to help you in this venture? What do they do?
Well, I'm still a caveman when it comes to this internet stuff. So I do have a Cash App. I don't have a GoFundMe, but if you have one yourself, Rob, they can donate it to you because I want people to trust the fact that this is going to something very positive.
Then what I'll do, Curtis, just so I don't forget, because Isaiah's listening. What I'll do is we'll put up my email address, and if people want to donate, I think you're needing less than like $500, aren't you? You're like there. You've got the money that you needed to get this thing off the ground, and it's just a production company cost, I think, is what's going on here.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're not looking for millions of dollars here. You've done all the hard work for 3 years. So I'll put out my email address, and then if people want to email me and say, like I'd like to give him X, $5, $10, $100, whatever the number is.
Yeah,
we'll try to get this done for you. And then when this documentary comes out, where do they want to put it? Do you know what is this a Netflix deal? I know you were originally talking to Netflix. Who's?
Yeah. So right now we still got words with Netflix and Hulu, and we're working with Prime right now.
Okay.
One thing I do want to say before we go, I also go to different high schools and talk to kids about. They have no idea that if you're 17 years old and you're talking to somebody that's 13, 14, a freshman, a sophomore, that's against the law. They have no idea. When I told them that, they thought I was lying. I said, I don't want nobody to go through what I went through without being aware, because we wasn't educated about that stuff back in the day. Not even close. So those are another thing that I've been working on when it comes to my seminars and giving back to the community, because like I said, we all have a time clock when we go see our maker. Whoever you pray to, that's who we're going to go see. And I want to do the best I can at 57 years old. And I tell people, judge me from the age 17 to 57. Don't judge me when I was a kid at 16, And I know you got people in the back, talking crazy, but I'm a good person when it's all said and done. I had to break myself apart, take all my tattoos away, take away my reputation, and figure out who I was as a man. And once I figured who I was as a man, I put everything back on me, because I'm twice the man now. And I'm going forward, and I'm a man of Spanish, because my mother taught me to be that way.
I hope this works, man. I do. I hope I hope good things happen to you. Listen, my father is a recovering alcoholic. I got to see some crazy things when I was a kid. My producer, Isaiah, he was raised in the foster care world, and he saw some very violent things. So we come from a different struggle than a lot of people. We saw a lot of things that we shouldn't have seen. I know you saw a lot of things you shouldn't have seen. I know you had some issues, family issues, same family issues that I had. I think we bonded over some of those things when we were a kid. We had very similar upbringings, and sports is what connected us. And it's amazing to me how I always say, when I'm talking to the audience, I always say, Missouri is a little bit different. And here's a perfect example as to why. I had not seen you since we were 15, 16 years old, right?
Right.
I start doing the radio. A mutual friend of ours reaches out and says, do you know that Curtis Wilson, do you know his story? I hear your story again. We invite you on the radio. We've been talking ever since. And it's just amazing the things you can do when you change your life. When people back you up and say, you know what, I want to support you in what you're doing. And then you see those people realize their dreams. I was talking to Isaiah earlier. I said, do you know people in your life that they root for everything that you do because you're friends, and then you have some people that are in your life and they constantly seem to be rooting against you. You feel like they're friends, but there's either jealousy there's something there, and they're rooting against you. I want to get all those people out of my life. I want to be around people that are rooting for what we're trying to get accomplished. I feel the same way about you. I want you to accomplish all of your dreams, because I think what you're doing now is just saying, listen, I have a great story. This story should be known. And number two, I can use that story to help a lot of people that were in the same situation as me better their lives, right? That's what you're after.
Yeah. So the name of the movie not pocket, but the documentary is called Wolf, Game of Life. Robb, I'm just thinking about, I've known you for 45 years, man.
Yeah.
45 years. And I'm very proud of you, what you're doing. You've always been a stand-up guy and a class act type of dude. And I appreciate, this platform that you're giving me. And I wish you the best of luck down in Florida. Even though I lived there for 15 years, I do miss Florida, but I don't miss that damn heat. So anyway.
Were you in South Florida?
No, I was in Tampa, Bradenton, and St. Pete.
Not far from me. Yeah, it does get a little warm. There's no doubt about it.
Were you in Orlando?
I'm in the Orlando area, Orlando suburbs. I'll be back in Missouri tomorrow. I'm coming in first thing tomorrow morning, so I'll catch up to you. I know I've been a little distant. Everybody goes, Robb, you don't call anybody back. I'm sure you're feeling the same way. I'm getting this business off the ground, getting this podcast off the ground, trying to juggle about 50 people every day, and I don't get back to people the way I should. Even Bill's Bill's been trying to get a hold of me, I think, for about 6 months now, and he probably thinks I'm a derelict as well.
Oh well,
but
like this is very important to me. I definitely want. This is amazing. There's so many layers on top of this story. I'm only giving you the outer shell about the story, but there's so much stuff inside the story that is very unique, very original, and it has a lot of receipts to it. Because I know how people can say one thing, but really made up some different stuff, like just to make the movie sound good. No, I'm not doing none of that. And a lot of Band-Aids going to be taken off, but it's for the best, for people to know the truth about who I am as a person, as a man, as a father, as a grandfather. Like I said, I have nothing against nobody. If you'd like to donate and help me, man, that'd be a blessing. If you don't, still a blessing for you guys just to hear me speak about my situation. So thank you, everybody, for listening.
They're going to see your documentary. They're going to remember that they heard this conversation. They're going to see your documentary on, I have a feeling it's going to be Netflix Prime. One of those, you're going to have this documentary out before too terribly long, and people will say, I heard that on the Robb Carter Show, which is always good for me as well. Good to hear from you, brother. I'll put up an email so people can reach out to me, and then I'll catch up to you when I get into town this weekend.
And take care of yourself, Robb, and I'll see you soon, man. Thank you.
Great to see you, brother. Be good.
All right. Super.
All right, everybody. There it is. Isaiah, what do you think? Did you know that about your buddy Robb?
Oh, I already. Yeah, they. I think. Who was it? It was John or Bill. I can't remember. They were talking about kind of the situation in the chat. They always talk about how good at baseball you were. And,
he was amazing. So he played on my team, and at the time, at that age, before everybody grew into their body, my son and I went through the same thing. From age about 10 to 14, I was pretty good. I mean, there weren't many players that were playing that were better than me. He played on my team. He was really good as well. He was actually starting to get really good about that time. I was really good young. And when he got to about 15 or 16, his body just grew. He got so big and so muscular. And so, he had arms. He was just huge. And I don't even think he worked out. He was just a big guy. And
that happened to me in swimming. From one year, I was I just started swimming, and I was not that good. And then I went through puberty, and the next year I was like, just flying through the pool.
I went through. My son started college baseball at 6'2.5", 155 pounds. Woo. I was the same way. I was really tall and skinny. We had big feet, and we were clumsy. So I didn't really reach my athletic potential until I was probably 20 or 21 years old. But sports, you got to be at your potential at 16, 17. That's when the scouts are looking at you. So I just missed it simply because of the way my body grew. My son was a little bit the same way. Guys like Curtis looked like a grown man when he was 16 years old. I mean, he had muscles on top of muscles.
That's what he was saying. He was saying that I guess because of how old he was, he's like, Rob, they're looking for the 17-year-olds at the minor leagues, right? And he was, I guess, only 21, but to your point, that was what he was kind of experiencing himself.
It's funny too, because I was thinking about it as we were talking here, just bringing back memories. You got to remember, I haven't seen him in a long while. I've seen him recently, but I hadn't seen him for years. There was a time when I just remember Curtis went from this really sweet, happy, funny kid to a little chip on his shoulder. And you didn't want to mess with Curtis at that point, right? You just didn't want to get on the wrong side of Curtis because Curtis would get. Now, I didn't feel that way, but people at school that I knew kind of felt that way towards Curtis because Curtis was not to be messed with. The guy that he got into a fight with, this guy named Bob, that was a friend of ours, was a monster. I mean, I think he held the Missouri State record for the standing jump. He was like this tall, really big white guy that had a look of an attitude, was just an incredible athlete. And those two got into it. And I thought, man, that's, I didn't see it. I'm like, I'd like to see that go down. Holy cow. But he started to get a little, I think he started to get a little bit, I didn't even know what the word for it was. Just a chip on his shoulder, I guess is the best way I'd put it. And then I got to see the documentary. I got to see that portion that we played is just a piece of something that's much bigger. And it was really just an outline of video that they put together for the original documentary. It was his home life. It was the same thing that was going on with me. At the same exact time, we were having problem with fathers and mothers and stuff that's going on in your life that makes you a little uncomfortable, and then you start to get a little aggravated. Then you start to grow into your body. People start messing with you, and you're like looking for a fight at that point.
Oh yeah, that was me. That was me when I was a kid. I remember there was a literature teacher, right, that sat down with me when I was in like 2nd or 3rd grade, and people couldn't understand what was wrong with me a lot of times because I was really good at hiding things, and I was also really smart. I had really good reading comprehension, but I was also a terrible, terrible kid. I mean, I was in school suspension probably 90% of the time.
I could see that.
And so, but this literature teacher, she saw through everything, and she sat me down and she said, I know what's going on at home. You don't have to tell me. And I know, and it's okay. And I just want you to keep reading, and I want you to keep doing what you're doing because your comprehension is far beyond most of these children. And I just want you to know that. And no matter what's going on at home, that's not going to stop you from succeeding in your life. And that stuck with me to this day. And made me believe in myself, that, okay, maybe I can do something. Maybe I can be maybe I don't have to be like them. Right.
Right. It was weird for me. My mom was such a, we're talking a little personal stuff today, but my mom was such a, she was such a great mother. She was the mother, the father, the disciplinarian, the hugger, the provider, the money maker, the everything to me.
The slap, the one slap.
They only slapped me one time, but my mom was this 5'2", 120-pound, big shoulders though. I mean, my mom she was a great athlete, and she just did not play games. There was no games being played at our house. There was such discipline at my house that I was afraid of my mother. I was afraid to. I remember at 15 years old, we were wrestling around on the floor, and I pinned her down. And I pinned her down to where she couldn't get up. And I didn't think anything of it. I was at that time, I'm starting to get a little bit bigger.
But that's when you're starting to be bigger than the mom, right? And you're like, no, I can actually fight.
Well, that's what happened. I pinned her down, and I got her to where she just couldn't move. I'm squeezing her to where she's wiggling, and she can't really do anything about it. I just remember, it was a vivid memory. We lived over in Douglas Court, right over by the airport. And I remember her getting up, and she was kind of looking at me like, what just happened? And I go, what? What are you looking at me like that for? She goes, I just can't believe that you could do that. And I go, do what? She goes, to hold me down like that. She goes, you've really grown up. And I hadn't. I was 15 years old as this little bitty guy.
Yeah.
But, my mom was starting to recognize that,
it's not her baby boy anymore.
Not her baby boy anymore. He's starting to grow up. Yeah. But the difference between, I think, Curtis and I was environment, right? Because he had a great mother too. I used to stay the night at his house. I know Curtis's mother, and I just kind of know the background of that story. But it's really was the I think there's my family went through it. My kids went through it. When you get divorced and kids are at formative ages, which he was at the time, there is an inherent anger that I don't think parents recognize when they split. Yeah. That's why I think when God says you're supposed to be married forever, I think it's really to protect the next generation, because I went through it myself. I know my wife went through it. My ex-wife has went through it. Curtis went through it. You saw portions of it. I really think it can be really destructive on children, and you don't see it until you actually go through it. I think that little bit of anger that I had, I couldn't do anything about it. I was too little there, but I will say this: when I got to be about 19, 20, 21 years old, when I grew into my body a little bit, I was kind of the same way as he was. It was just, okay, you want to play games? All right. You know what I mean? I was looking for it. I just had that little chip on your shoulder. and I never really understood what caused it. You know, I
Mhm.
just didn't know what the reason you have that little bit of anger in the back of your mind, and you're like, "All right, you come and start something, will you?" That kind of thing. And I
Yeah.
look back and it's embarrassing. You know, we talk about it all the time. You're temperamental and you shouldn't
Yeah.
be. But I
I
really
got forced to go, I was forced to go to a lot of therapy, and that was what helped me was going to therapy because they made me realize that I had all this resentment,
right.
against my birth parents that I didn't even know my birth dad really. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, I know him, but I don't know him. You know what I mean? I didn't even know. I knew that he worked and he cut trees, right?
Yep.
But I don't really know him, right? Um, and so just being able to forgive them for the things that, and being able to say that and, actually forgive them and say, hey, I don't hold anything against you. I get it now, as an adult, I do get it. I understand how hard it is to raise children and I don't blame them, and I honestly think that if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't be who I am today.
Who you are. And it's the
Yeah.
power of forgiveness. You know,
Yeah.
that's the one thing that I used to coach it when I was playing baseball. When I was coaching baseball, I used to I started to understand the power of
Thanks, Donna.
forgiveness, right? The power of forgiveness when you just say, "You know
Yeah.
what? I forgive you, even if you've trespassed against me, if you've broken my soul, if you've broken my spirit, I forgive you for it." There's
That's what
something that goes
Jesus did.
along. Yeah, it's just something that is freeing about just saying, "You know what? I forgive you. I'm not gonna be mad at you anymore." And I used to tell my kids when we were coaching baseball, I'll never forget it, Isaiah. Remember when I said the public speaking came through baseball? I'll tell you a funny story.
Yep.
So the St. Louis Gamers is it's an instructional program in Missouri that I was at the very foundation of. And
Mm.
this is really high level baseball, and you're teaching kids how to
Mhm.
play baseball. I was a good communicator. I didn't recognize it at the time. I just didn't, I talk like everybody else does.
Yeah.
But I was communicating with our kids, and it was a summer league game. These were not our fall league game. So it wasn't, it's basically tryouts.
Mhm.
And so I don't have my team. I'm coaching a group of kids that are not my players, that are all really good ball players that are trying to make one of our teams and this and that and the other. And we assemble them together and we played fall ball, is what it was called. And I remember one of these particular games where we had more talent than the team that we were playing, but I was not coaching them. I was watching them. I wanted to see how they behaved. And there was the umpire was making some calls that they didn't like, and then all the kids start to get angry and they're throwing bats and they're acting crazy and they could not get past the couple of calls that the umpire made that started to change the outcome of the game. And I got done. Now all the parents, I give it all the kids up against the screen. We got probably 17 kids on the team, and you've got all of their parents and grandparents, and we're standing out in the off the first base line. And I started talking about forgiveness. And I said, one of the reasons you guys are not going to be good unless you change your view of the situation is if you allow an umpire
Mhm.
to get inside of your noggin and now you're not focused because you're thinking of this umpire got over on you, then you're not focused on the things that make you win. And I said, when you come to our teams, we teach you how to win. So if you're not interested in winning, if you're interested in having a battle won against the umpire, or if you
Yeah.
want to hit 700 and you really don't care what your other teammates do, if you're here because you have a personal gripe or you can be so distracted that you can't perform, then you can't play at the level that we're going to play at. There's no amount of talent that you could have that would allow you to be beneficial to our program if you cannot forgive things as they go along, because the forgiveness allows your mind to clear so we can move forward. And you kind of see it now in some of the baseball. It's changed over the years. You don't see a lot of fighting and going on because it's
Mhm.
so distracting. It was more fun when the managers and the players used to fight. That was more fun
Clear
to
the
watch.
benches.
Yeah, it was more fun to watch. But in the reality is you do lose your concentration. That's why back in the day they would trash talk in basketball. They would try to get under somebody's skin, and you would try to Larry Bird was the best at it. He
Oh
would try to
yeah.
get people's skin because then they're not concentrating. They've got a one. They're not trying to win the game. They're trying to shove it up Larry Bird's. What,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And I think forgiveness is something that I have had to learn over the years. I'm completely okay with forgiving
Mhm.
people that have done me wrong. And I think that's what you got to look at with Curtis. Curtis did, Curtis said I dated 1,000 women.
Yeah.
He was always a little bit like that. He liked to chase the girls around, never been married,
Mhm.
likes to chase the girls around, but he's not a pedophile. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah,
He's a
right.
pedophile. And
Someone said in the chat, they said based off of the, I guess the same thing that he is charged under, that if you moon someone on a canoe trip, that you would be categorized the same as Curtis. I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy.
well, it's true. And what's interesting about it is several people called me after the first time I interviewed him on the radio, and they said I was in the same situation. My dad
Hmm.
said when I got home, my dad goes, I was listening to you talk to Curtis, and he said, That was the same way with me and your mom. I was 18, your mom was 14 when we met.
Mm-hmm.
We started dating, 18 and 14. He goes, completely different era. Nobody thought anything of it at that point. I know that one of my closest friends in school was a senior. He was 18. He was dating a freshman that had not turned 15 yet. So that's somebody I grew up with. Went to Pattonville High School. Completely different era. I'm sure it's completely different now, but in that era in the 80s, if you were in high school, you were in high school. It was basically all the same when you were in high school.
Yeah.
Is the way people were looking at it.
Yep.
Carrington Financial.
Your carrying advisor.
Carrington. How much time you got, Isaiah? You want to go for like 15 minutes? There's a couple of, I don't know. Maybe we'll save those for Tuesday. I think I'll save it for Tuesday.
Let's see here.
Let me get Carrington Financial.
The old Rick Babbitt's.
Yes. There's Bill.
He'll be on with us on Tuesday, actually, when we're back, right?
See, Bill and I have been friends since that same era. Papa Bill on here.
Mm-hmm.
And he said our dads were drinking together. When we met. That's true. From before we met. That was the era. Right. My parents were growing up in the 60s and 70s. They were absolutely crazy. Bill's father was a little crazy. My dad was a little crazy. They knew each other.
Oh yeah.
It was crazy.
That's the party era, right? When they didn't know what those things were doing to them yet.
Yes. It's true. I think cocaine was legal in the 70s.
Yeah. Cocaine was legal, right? And LSD, I don't think was
60s. That was big. They were testing
big
out
LSD. Yeah, that was the whole Charles Manson thing, right? And everything we talked about before. So
we're going to do a show on this before too long. Have you ever heard of the drug I think it's called DMT?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
I was unaware of it till just recently.
Oh yeah. I kind of got a background like Curtis where I just know I wasn't in it, but I have friends that were very, drug dealers and things like that. And so they're smoking DMT. I'm like, you guys are freaking crazy.
Well, that's what this guy I was listening to this guy last night and he said under controlled conditions, some of these psychedelic drugs, he said you're not in a hallucinatory, like if people have done drugs, or if you drugs, mushrooms or something, where you kind of know you're in this hallucinatory state, you see these things, they're kind of off, but you know that you're high on mushrooms.
Yeah.
Right? He said with DMT, it's real.
Yeah.
Like what you're seeing is real. He said you can put a red laser on this. This is crazy. I was just listening to this on the Sean Ryan show, but I heard this guy Chase Hughes talk about it as well. He said on this DMT, he goes, you have thousands of people that say they see the same thing. You can put a red laser on the wall and you'll see mathematical code within inside of it. And you can talk just like I'm talking to you, read the code, write the code down, this, and that, and the other. And he goes, and you see life in everything.
Wow.
He goes, but it's not in a hallucinatory state. You're as lucid as you are right now, but you see things in a different dimension.
Yeah.
And he said,
that's what I've heard. Someone's told me a cartoon world is what they say.
I have no idea. I haven't done it.
Yeah, I've never smoked DMT, so I have no idea what it.
I'm dying to know whether this is true.
That's what they've told me though. Is they're like, oh, it's like a cartoon world. It's like immediate or something. They say as soon as they like smoke it in like a pipe, right?
Yep.
And so they say that as soon as they hit it, I've never watched anyone smoke it. This is just people telling me their experience, right? Yep. But they tell me as soon as they smoke it, it's like immediate. Essentially, is what they've told me. So. And that it's like a cartoon world. They see these characters and crazy stuff. So seems pretty wild.
I don't know where Lane's going with that, but anyway.
Well, that's what I was saying earlier is that someone was saying that if you moon someone on a canoe trip, you could be charged as the same thing that Curtis has right now.
My ex-wife, I'm down in the basement and she's on the computer and she goes, you got to see this. And she's freaking out. And I go, what is it? And she goes, I saw this person talking about this. They said, you go to this website and you can see all the sexual predators that are in your area. I lived at a Winghaven country club, right? So she pops it up and there's these red dots. There must have been 150 red dots are on there. I'm like, what in the world? She goes, yeah, every single person here on these red dots, you can even look up their names. They are registered sex offenders.
Yep.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I said, that can't be the case. There can't be that many and then we looked up what it meant to be a sexual offender. You could, just like he said, you could pull on the side of the street and pee. Cops catch you, sexual predator, sexual offender, mooning somebody as a joke, right? Sexual offender, having sex in public sometimes, right? So if you're somebody who's making love in the car when you're a child, they can get you on those charges. I don't know any of that to be true, but this is what was told to me. And it made sense because there's no way that there was like a bunch of.
Well, there's people that have been charged. They do have that have been in all those situations, right? It's the worst I've heard is that just someone peeing on the side of the road and they're close enough to a school or something or a playground. And that's why they got it. And it's like, what?
Kind of crazy. It's crazy what he went through. That's for sure. I mean, he carried that tag along. He got arrested.
Yeah. I mean, I just feel like when you were my age, that's something that wouldn't have happened. Like if you're peeing and no one can see you, but maybe someone catches you peeing in a private area, right? I don't feel
that moron that I play golf with pees on the golf course all the time. He does. Isaiah, when we were kids, this is a true story. When we were kids, when I was 17, 18, 19 years old, if the police thought that you were a teenager and you had been drinking, like they'd always make you open up your trunk. And I guarantee you there are people listening to this of my age got pulled over at some time when they were a kid. They opened up their trunk. There'd be a case of beer in there. They would make you pour the case of beer out. If you were sober, they would call your parents. If you were drunk, they would call your parents, but they did not want to penalize you. There was no, let's put this kid, let's make him so he can't drive till he's 21 and make their parents pay $10,000. They just thought, this is a dopey kid. This is dangerous. You can't be doing this. And they would let your parents take care of business. Because if the parents came because they were pouring out beer, they thought the parents were going to whoop your ass. And that would be the end of that. They didn't think they really needed the police to get involved and destroy your life and run their parents through tens of thousands of dollars. Completely different era. It was a different era. It's a different way of looking at the world.
Yeah, one of my favorite videos to watch, I know we got to get to advertise. One of my favorite videos to watch, and I'll have to find it, is when drinking and driving became illegal. And I think it was like in the 80s or something like that.
Yeah.
And people were just so pissed off. They're like, what are we, a communist country? What is this? And it's just so funny to watch the interview because it's so, times are different. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And this lady with her child, and they're telling me I got to wear a seatbelt in the car. And now they're telling me I can't drink and drive. What is this? You know, Russia or something like that?
I remember when the seatbelt laws come out, we thought it was ridiculous. When I was a kid, if you saw somebody wearing a seatbelt, you thought, what is this nerd doing over here wearing a seatbelt?
It's like bike helmets, right?
They look ridiculous. That's what we thought when we were kids. I mean, when we were kids, I remember going back and forth to Kansas City because we had family in Kansas City, from St. Louis to Kansas City. And all the kids, we used to sit up in the back window of the car and just kind of look through the back window of the car.
Yeah.
We would ride in the back of trucks for miles and miles and miles.
Station wagons. I would sit in the back.
Playing games in the station wagons. The whole world is a complete. I don't know whether it's better or worse, but it's completely different. Carrington Financial.
Sorry, Rick.
CaringAdvisor.com. You'll see Rick Babbitt's on the show Tuesday at 11 o'clock. Again, if you're nearing retirement, if you have money to stretch, if you have money to protect, if you have money to grow, it is always Rick Babbitt's. Get his opinion on your money. Don't be a dummy. Listen to me. Get an opinion from Rick Babbitt's on your money. Don't have to do anything with him. He'll talk it out with you. If it makes sense to you and you go, I kind of like what this guy's talking about, then you'll do business. If not, get an opinion, get a second, get a third, get a fourth, doesn't matter. Get Rick Babbitt's opinion about your financial situation. As I've said many, many times, he's not a cookie cutter financial advisor. This is a guy with a background in history, politics, money, currency. He knows what's going on in the world, and you should get his opinion. Biblical principles with your money. He is a fiduciary, and you can check him out on our show every Tuesday at 11 o'clock. Generally speaking, we're talking politics. We can get finance conversation going here before too terribly long, but you'll enjoy Rick Babbitt's 314-671-0525. 314-671-0525. Isaiah, he is your CaringAdvisor.com. And then I got to get a shout out to Kit's Speed Shop. Kit's Speed Shop this is what he writes. He says, first of all, he wanted to help the show. He said, Rob, I just want to help the show. If you throw me a shout out every now and again, we'll do it. I said, okay, we'll shout you out. Kit does unique and classic transmission work in Sedalia, Missouri in Hangar 5 and is well known for his vast experience and knowledge when it comes to transmission repair. Isaiah, old car transmission repair. You know, I'm talking about the old 57 Chevys and that kind of thing. You got to see his situation. He's got a beautiful operation going on out there. He might need flooring at some point. That's another one for Rich McQuay. There you go. Kit's Speed Shop. He said, no classic car, maybe on a plane. Kit is also a certified A&P and IA, which is everything airplane owners are on the lookout for. Kit loves what we do here on the Rob Carter Show, and he is a big, proud advertiser and sponsor. Kit's Speed Shop. If you're near Sedalia, Missouri, or you have a plane that needs repair, or you have an old car, old transmission repair, you got to think Kit's Speed
Shop. It's like boats too, actually.
Boats. He probably can do it all. Kit's Speed Shop. What did you put the website up there? What is the website? There it is.
It's just a Facebook page. It looks like
he has a phone number. That's what I was looking for. 660-909-6000. 660-909-6000. If you're somebody who's into old cars, need some transmission repair, need some help, it is always Kit's Speed Shop in Sedalia, Missouri. And then when it's lunchtime, Isaiah, what time is it? You were there last night. Weren't they wonderful?
Oh yeah, I meant to say this. AFP bought dinner for everyone. Very interesting.
AFP.
Yeah, I didn't accept it though. Just for the listeners, just so you guys know, I bought my own dinner.
You don't want to get swayed.
Yeah,
right?
I bought my own dinner.
AFP. You like that?
Right.
One?
That's it.
That's one of your favorite ones. Wait a minute,
it's a great song.
When we talk flock cameras, I got to start playing this one. There you go. Moe's Pizza in Washington, Missouri. When it's time for lunch and you're in Franklin County or Washington, Missouri, it's always Moe's Pizza. They have that delicious pizza and salad bar with those breadsticks that I haven't had yet, but I'll get them next time. Chicken wings, delicious sandwiches, and the best ice cream. If there's any kind of get-together, whether it be birthday parties, anniversaries, political meetings, or Bible studies, they have banquet space available for you. They'll treat you like family environment, and just absolutely wonderful people. A landmark in Washington, Missouri, at the corner of Grand and 5th Street. It is Mike and Brenda Johns. Salt of the earth people, do a ton of work for the community. They've become like a legendary place for political meetings. It's amazing what they're able to accomplish out there. God owns the place. He just works there. Again, Moe's Pizza. There they are. Moe's Pizza in Washington, Missouri. Again, get yourself some lunch, get yourself some dinner. Closed on Mondays, open the other 6 days of the week. Moe's Pizza, as I said, a landmark in Washington, Missouri. Now, last thing. Can you put up the Robb Show host at gmail.com? Now, listen, I would like to raise this money for Curtis. I'm sure I'm going to put some money into the pot here because I
want. We got Jones Water. Don't forget them, just so you know.
Oh, that's right. Let me do this first. Then,
yeah. No, I just wanted to remind you in case you forgot. That's all.
Well, Everett wouldn't forget. He'd call me up immediately and go, dude, what's going on around here? Got to prorate you. That's all I can do. I got to prorate you.
I love it.
So if you want to help Curtis out, just send me an email. We'll figure out how to do it. The Robb Show host at gmail.com. The Robb Show host at gmail.com. I'd love to raise, I think it's $500 he's looking for. And it's not much. I mean, they put thousands and thousands together for him. He goes, Rob, I just need a few bucks. Can I come on? I said, absolutely.
Yeah.
The Robb Show host at gmail.com. That documentary is almost done. I think he had a showing at a theater not too long ago as well. So we're getting close to the end of it. Let's get this thing out onto Netflix, get it out onto Prime or one of these channels, because I would love to see it on the big screen at some point. If you're interested in helping out Curtis Wilson, the Robb Show host at gmail.com, the Robb Show host at gmail.com. And now I got to get to Everett. Let me send this to you really fast.
Is it this flyer?
Let me see what you got there.
This one?
Yeah, that's it. That's what I'm looking for.
Okay.
All right. So joneswater.com. Where is my joneswater.com? Isaiah, I'm all out of whack now. Hang on here. I'm leaving. So I've been a little
prepared.
Yeah, I'm leaving first thing tomorrow morning, so I'm a little scattered with my day here. Joneswater.com. This is the guy that has been with me from jump. Everett Jones and his family. Joneswater.com. 636-899-1040. Again, for all of your home or business air and water filtration needs, it is Everett Jones. I'll say it again. This should be his tagline. If in the year 2026 you are still drinking tap water, there's not much more we can do for you. You need an air and water filtration system in your home or business. He's offering a deal out to anybody that listens to the show. 250 years of America. He's going to give a $250 discount on, what is that? The April Air. Can you blow that up so I can see it?
I can't blow it up, but I can read it for you. April Air Whole House Dehumidifier or the Hydrotech 89 H2O softener and filter.
And he says that dehumidifier, he says that's a big deal, Rob. He goes, you should push those in the summertime in Missouri. He goes, because it kind of seems the opposite, right? You're going to have to spend the money for the system. He goes, but then you're going to save money on your energy costs, because wherever you are comfortable at your home, whether it's 70 or 72, he goes, with a dehumidifier, he goes, you set your thermostat 2 degrees lower, it'll feel exactly the same, only the air will be crisp and clean, and you'll recognize the difference. So again, love to get some business for joneswater.com. He's been crushing it. I think last year was his
limited
best
time offer too, it looks like, until the end of July.
Yep. And I think he sold more water purification systems last year than at any other time in his business. And he's been around since 1995. So we're talking about 31 years this man's been in business. Joneswater.com, joneswater.com. You'll be the filter or you'll buy the filter, joneswater.com. If you want to do business with Everett on the Missouri side, it's St. Charles County, Lincoln, Franklin, Warren, St. Louis, and Jefferson. If you want to go to the east side or you live on the east side, the dark side, Madison, Monroe, Jersey, and St. Clair, joneswater.com. All All right, Isaiah. I think that's all I got for everybody today. Is there anything else we should talk about?
I don't think so. I will just tease this, and I think we'll find out more this weekend and before we get back next Tuesday. But Trump says he won't sign housing bill because he's holding out for the Save America Act. So the housing bill that will help American people, he's not going to sign that because he wants his Save America Act
I thought it was
passed
tied to
first.
702 FISA.
What'd you say?
I thought it was tied to 702 FISA.
Oh, it keeps shifting.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. It's it keeps shifting. It's tied to it. It's not. I don't
What
know
is
where
the housing bill?
I don't know
What
where it
is this?
stands right now because I haven't been following it because of the meetings we had. But right now he's trying to tie it to passing the Save America Act.
What's the housing bill? What is it?
I can't remember off the top of my head. I remember reading it and thinking, hey, this is going to help people. It's called
is it more government handouts?
21st Century Road to Housing Act is what it's called. So if you want to look it up, that's what it's called. I remember reading and thinking, okay, this is something, right? Not sure if I was necessarily endorsing it or saying this is fantastic, right? But I thought it was something that seemed positive for the American people, and Trump's holding out on us. And so that's
I'm getting more and more. I'm almost checked out of the day-to-day. The Supreme Court did this.
I know, right?
This bill's getting ready to pass. Oh no, we're hanging up on this bill. I'm like, I think most of America, I'm just kind of immune to all of the rhetoric that goes back and forth. And I just am, you got to keep me up to speed on stuff like that. Cause I don't know. I just feel like it's all BS when it comes to the federal government at some point, but I could be wrong.
Oh, so this is what it was. It was a bipartisan housing bill. That's why I think it was interesting is that it was bipartisan, but it's a uniparty. We know that.
So it's doubly as bad.
Yeah. But that's the thing that's interesting is that it's bipartisan and the Congress wants it, but the president doesn't want it. Right. And that's the powers we talk about always conflicting as the executive branch with the judicial branch or Congress or anyone, right? They're and do they really have their own powers is what we talk about a lot, right? Is who appoints those Supreme Court justices, right?
I was listening to I think if you pressure them significantly, you have a chance.
Yeah.
But as you know, we saw it firsthand. We went there, and like I said, there's like a half a dozen people walking around Congress asking questions of the people that govern them. With a country with 350 million people in it, it's kind of hard to make sense of it all.
It doesn't seem like it's happening at Jeff City at all either until the next session when we won't be doing that.
Right, I took a bus trip down there. We paid for it, the whole thing. We took a bus trip down there. I think we got 80 people maybe that went. That's all right, 80 people. I can't even remember how. It wasn't a ton, right? Wasn't a ton of people there. We did fill up the stands though for that night, so that was nice. I want to play one video. I want to get this out only because I know we're nearing the end of the show. People have probably moved on to lunch and so forth. But I want your opinion on this, Isaiah, because Allie works with us on People's Lobby, Missouri, and she kind of handles the elections. She sent me something this morning. She seemed kind of excited about it. I don't know whether I share her excitement because it's another, okay, Trump is changing this, and now the executive branch is going to have more power. We're taking it out of these people's hands, this and the other. And I didn't get a chance to really look at it. But she was excited about it this morning. So I sent you a clip. So she sent this to me. I sent it to you. I only watched like the first minute or so of it, but I want to get a sense of what do you think when you hear things like this? Is this something where you go, okay, now things are moving in the right direction, or is this just more noise? How do you see this? I want to get your opinion, and I'll save mine for later, but I want your opinion on this. It said another one or that I sent to you. Did you see it?
Let me see.
It was the second email I sent you this morning.
The one more?
Yeah, the one more.
Oh, that's the one I was telling you that it was not a file. It was like it was just a bunch.
Oh, that's the one you couldn't play.
Yeah, I thought you were trying to send me Curtis's video. Yeah, sorry. You can send it to me right now.
Let me see here.
Because you were saying it's a 5-minute video or something.
Here.
Is it not
just text it to you?
Yeah, it's not an X post or something. If you text it to me, it's easy. I can pull it up.
Here we go.
On the fly, baby.
There's that one. So she sent that to me. And the reason I'm curious is I got to get Jen Olson back on the show. Hopefully get her on next week. She's running for St. Charles County election director. And I want to get her on just to see what's going on. She's been knocking on a lot of doors. She's been throwing out a lot of endorsements. I don't know what they mean anymore, but she's getting a lot of endorsements out in St. Charles County. And I'm just curious how that race is going. I would like to see somebody that is hell bent on hand counting paper ballots, getting rid of the machines, cleaning up elections. I'd like to see somebody have success that's talking about the elections and not more of the status quo. So I'm rooting for Jen Olson. We'll try to get her on next week if she's available.
Yep.
But this is about elections right here. Do you have that video?
Ready to go.
All right, play this and tell me what you think.
This is breaking news from the Supreme Court. They just ruled to change the power of the president. The Supreme Court just overturned Humphrey's executor. It's a 90-year-old ruling that allowed Congress to build agencies inside of the executive branch that the president didn't control. See, in 1930, Franklin Roosevelt came up with a New Deal, which massively expanded the federal government. And Congress started building agencies, very powerful agencies to regulate the economy, the market, and the workplace. But here's the catch. They built them inside the executive branch and then told the president that he couldn't touch them. That's the Federal Trade Commission, Securities and Exchange Commission, the National Labor Relations Board, and a dozen more. They have trillions of dollars in regulatory power, but they're run by unelected bureaucrats and they're accountable to nobody that you voted for. That 1935 ruling is called Humphrey's executor, and that made it official. And the president couldn't hire them. He couldn't fire them. They just operated on their own for 90 years. And this morning, the Supreme Court said that if an agency sits inside of the executive branch, then the president runs it. That's what the Constitution said. There's no more shadow governments, no more rogue agencies that don't answer to anybody. They answer to the president now, and the president answers to you, which is why the SAVE Act is the next step in us taking back our country.
And I'm told he fired a bunch of Democrats that were in these organizations. Do you know anything about this story, and what is your take on it?
I thought, I mean, I could be completely wrong on this because I've been in A5, deep in A5 for the last couple of days, but I thought that they overturned that. I'm looking through these headlines that I had.
I wouldn't think so. She just sent this to me this morning.
Yeah.
She's pretty on top of stuff.
It's, I want to find it. I may have just, because I haven't been paying as close attention. I've been all A5. I may have just misread a headline or something like that. But
you think this changes anything significantly? Do you think? Because
if it did, I'm a fan of any 3-letter agency being able to be fired by someone, right?
Yeah.
And if they weren't able to be fired before, I think that's a step in the right direction for sure. Now, I don't know what the implications of this are, right? I don't know anything about this Humphreys, whatever she called it, right? I can't remember, but I don't know what the implications of that actually are. But if you're telling me someone can, fire, or dismantle the SEC basically, right? I think that people will be like, oh, that sounds great, right? It's like the FBI, the SEC, CIA, get rid of them all. The IRS specifically, right? And so any 3-letter agency that we can eliminate, yeah, or even start to downsize, right? I think is a good thing. But is this, I don't know, is it theater? That's what I always go back to. Is it just something that seems
does it really
good?
change things? That's what I'm always curious. Does it really change things? Because when we were talking to Robb Manus today,
yeah,
it just, the system does not seem to ever get addressed, right? And that's why we're talking about the USS Liberty. If that's the case, that means the entire system covered this up, and we're not going to challenge the system to get to the truth, because I guess we just can't get there. And that thought process just seems, I don't know, it just doesn't sit right with me.
Okay, so this is what it was. I'm pretty sure now I remember. He was trying to fire someone, and the Supreme Court was trying to figure out if he could, and then they did eventually rule in his favor. That's right. I was thinking through it in my head. I'm like, what happened? Because I thought it was happening so, like you said, things happen so fast where it's like, oh my gosh, what's happening today? And yeah, what's the case? Like, it's Tyler Robinson's case every day, right? It's like, oh my gosh, what's happening now?
What happened here with the
I don't know.
Earth Hippie Freedom says prayers for the people of Lesterville. Major flash flood early this morning. People missing. Where's Lesterville?
Lesterville, Missouri.
Earth Hippie, where's Lesterville? Are we talking about Missouri?
Let's see. It's by yeah. Lesterville is in Missouri. Sorry. It looks like it is near Farmington, kind of.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And people are missing?
Southwest of Farmington, and west of Fredericton. Yeah, down by the Johnson Shut-ins State Park.
A little prayer for the people in Lesterville, because that could get a little nasty. If
Oh, here
people
it is. All children and safe are accounted for at Camp Tom Sauk as flash flooding hits southeast Missouri.
Right, and it says 8 to 10 inches. Holy cow! Inches. There's an H in that, Rod Mama.
Yeah, 12 inches of rain in the last 12 hours and more rain if possible.
Wow.
My
All
goodness.
right. So prayers for the people in Lesterville.
Absolutely.
Fair enough. All right. Got to shut it down. I got to get packed up and off to St. Louis tomorrow morning. Isaiah, it was a great week. We had a good week.
Oh yeah. We're not going to be here on Monday. Got to say it multiple times, right?
I'll put out a video or a couple videos over the weekend. I've got court on Monday. I'm going there to watch Justice at Work because that was kind of the reason the name of the show today was about justice and law. And does law in this country mean justice? Well, one of the things that we're talking about, does the law create justice for Curtis? Right? Does that law seem like it's just? Doesn't seem like it's just to me. I'll be going to court, and I already know the answer to my situation. By the way, Isaiah, I meant to tell you this. A message on Facebook Messenger showed up for me yesterday that was sent almost a year and a half ago, and it showed up at the top of my thing today.
I know. I've had that same thing happen.
Yeah, it was about me talking about my court case that I have coming up. I'm like, well, I have I got a divorce decree, and this is the way our divorce is laid out. Money, time, custody, everything is laid out. If somebody doesn't hold up to their end of the bargain, doesn't that break the contract?
It's wouldn't that be a breach of contract?
Why do I need the court to explain to me what we already agreed to? I have all the emails back. Yeah. I know what happened. I mean, everybody knows what happened.
You've probably had that before in the shoe business, right? Someone breaches the contract.
Why am I going to court over a contract that nobody's even disputing was broken? But now I have to go to court over this.
You got to follow the process, Rob.
That's what I'm saying. It's not just, it's the law.
Yep.
Right.
Not guilty until proven innocent.
I got to go spend another $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 because I have a divorce decree that says you pay X, Y, and Z if X, Y, and Z are followed. If X, Y, and Z aren't followed, it would break the contract. Yet I didn't inform the courts that I was breaking the contract, only the person I'm talking about. And now I have to go to court and spend $5,000 to plead my case on a contract that was obviously broken, that neither side is even saying the contract was broken. Is law justice anymore? Right? That's what I asked.
I think law is loophole.
I think laws right now are a bunch of BS. I think it's just ridiculous. As I said before, when I got that ticket on 4061, I'm riding next to a truck. They've got road construction going on. I got about 4 inches between a semi doing 60 miles an hour and a retainer wall. I'm like, oh my God, they made this.
This is in Wentzville, I think, right?
Yeah. I said, if this thing moves another a foot my direction, he's going to pin me up against the wall. So I blew past it, which any competent person driving a car would do. Like, I got to get away from this guy. So I drive real fast. I get past him. They write me a ticket. I have to go to court to pay a ticket for doing what was the safe thing, because that's the law, Rob. Of course you were trying to be safe and you're trying to get away from a semi that had you pinned up against the wall, but you're going to have to pay us $500 because you were in a construction zone, Rob. And I mean, it's just the law. I didn't know what you do. I know that you were being safe and everybody agrees that you're being safe. That's, we're in a bad situation, but give us the $500, shut your pie hole and get out of here. And we'll put that money on your insurance so your insurance can raise. And I said, no. Ain't having it. And by the way, if you get a speeding ticket and you don't think it was just go to the courts and fight it.
Oh yeah, they won't be there. That's what my speech teacher in college. I went to St. Charles Community College for a year to get all my general eds out of the way before I went to Moody. And he was the chief of police for Cottleville. He's like, all right, I'm going to tell you guys a secret. If you want to know how to get out a speeding ticket, this is what you got to do. And he said, one, just go to court. They probably won't be there. And if they're not there, you're gonna win. The second thing is, he says, most officers don't write their starting speed on the ticket. And I guess they have to write that starting speed for it to be, for them to actually use it as evidence and charge you. And if they don't, then it's dismissed. And then if the evidence is dismissed, then the case is dismissed, essentially.
I think I'm going to be my own attorney from now on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Anytime there's a traffic incident, I'm going to be my own attorney.
Yep.
Less expensive. And I won my first case. There you go. See you Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. on the Robb Carter Show. Have a great weekend, everybody. Sorry we drug on a little bit today. I just had to get some personal stuff out. I just had to get a little personal story and leave the politics for a minute.
Fantastic.
Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you Tuesday morning. Have a great weekend, number one. And then we'll see you Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. See you soon.